a big discount today, it does make sense for them to buy that day, depending upon what the cost is. But if it's a case of just seeing something looking attractive and buying it, not being sure that you actually need to buy that good, then unfortunately what we're going to see is a lot of people getting into financial difficulty as a consequence of this. Yes, there has been some recovery, but it's marginal. It's not a dramatic improvement.
Meanwhile, consumers have expressed mixed emotions about Black Friday. The SABC's Ayanda Nyati visited a Gauteng mall and spoke to a retailer.
We arrived here early this morning, and frankly, some of the shops were still closed, which is certainly not what you're used to, but easy flow, in and out. The trolleys that people are pushing around aren't really that full. It's meant to be Black Friday, meant to be quite busy, but we're not seeing that today.
It is quite busy. It's just that we are a new store, so I guess that's the reason why we're not as busy as other stores.
All right. I suppose busy is subjective nowadays, but I haven't been able to spot a lot of people coming through here. We'll certainly get you a sense of the extent to which the situation changes here at the Mall of Africa.
And in other news, the Department of Health says over 8,000 young health professionals have been placed for medical internships and community service for next year. The department placed young medical professionals in all categories. Health spokesperson Foster Mahale says they'll continue to engage stakeholders to assist with the placements.
It is necessary at this stage to clarify that the fact that while the country is crying out for the appointment of more health inspectors in the face of foodborne illnesses and death afflicting especially young children in the country, the Department of Health is working closely with other government departments and stakeholders to find a long-lasting solution. In the meantime, provincial departments of health have started the process to prepare appointment letters for all those that have been placed and accepted their placements. This also demonstrates a responsive and caring government.
Lastly, French President Emmanuel Macron is due to visit the restored Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris 5.5 years later after it was devastated by fire. The work has been described as revealing a cathedral that has not been seen in centuries. The BBC's Hugh Schofield.
It may not be the official reopening, that's in 8 days' time, but it is the moment many in France and around the world have been waiting for. Very few people have been able to see inside Notre Dame, but those who have say it's a truly remarkable and uplifting experience. The timber roof frame and the fallen stone vaulting have been replaced, of course, as has the spire, but inside what strikes the visitor is said to be a glorious lightness and freshness. All the masonry has been cleaned, not just of the effects of the fire, but of the residue of decades of soot and dust. Stained glass windows likewise, a fitting result to 5 years of skilled and dedicated labour and nearly €1 billion in donations.
Recapping the top story this hour, 3 alleged illegal miners have been killed in a shootout with police in Sabi, Mpumalanga. Headlines at 3:30 for SAFM News. I am Dino Mutaung.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Ella's concerned about fatigue ahead of Jamaica clash. English clubs target Bulls powerhouse, and Herbert holds lead at Australian Open as Smith stumbles. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. Ask a woman. Ask a woman stranded on the side of the road with her 2 young crying children whether she is glad she was able to get her latest insurance quote in under 90 seconds. Ask a woman if she feels anyone is there for her. And now ask yourself, when suddenly happens, who's there for you?
Auto and General. Car insurance with 24-hour roadside assistance with live progress tracking. SMS CAR to 43365 for an obligation-free insurance quote. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Okay, let's get this recipe right. Switch to S3 at 7 p.m. Add 1 scoop of moshindiki. Check. Mix in Team Green Pepper and Team Red Tomato, featuring 2 chefs and 2 contestants. Check. Blend in a limited budget per team and a mystery ingredient to add a bit of spice. Check. Set the timer for 20 minutes and voila, there you have it. A fresh episode of Ready Steady Cook South Africa on S3 every weeknight at 7 p.m. Channel your inner Salt Bay with Ready Steady Cook SA. Mondays to Friday at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, it may be a Friday, it may be what is called a Black Friday, but it's certainly going to be a good show today. There's just no letdown in terms of what we do. We've got a fascinating guest coming up after 5 o'clock, in fact, in the Friday Fireside Chat. Someone who's been in the political space, but not anymore, but the influence still remains, involved in some significant organizations. So we'll chat to him after 5 o'clock. I wonder if you can guess who I'll be talking to. And yes, talking about Friday or Black Friday, let me ask you this. There's so much emotion attached to Black Friday. What for you is the one word that you would use to describe what Black Friday means to you? And don't use the word black or don't use the word Friday. What's the one word to describe what Black Friday means to you? I certainly want to know what you're thinking. You can engage live on air when you call in to 086 000 2032. And how about sending us a voice note? You can do that to 0614 104 107. You can also text to that same WhatsApp number. And as always, you can use the social media platforms, and they're available. I'm always there. You can tag SFM Radio, tag me, Ashraf Garda. And that's on Facebook as well as on the X platform when you're tweeting out to us. Tell me where you're listening, considering today is a Friday. I wonder where, people are. They're not maybe an early day off from work, right? So wherever you are, I want to know. Right, so we'll talk about the Namibian election just now. There's some significant developments there. There's also an issue about creating important spaces for child play. That is particularly important, and an update on what's going on in Stilfontein, as well as the official launch of the African Innovation Academy Experiment Program. I certainly want to know about that and more, okay? But let's get to the big issue we start with, and that concerns Zimbabweans. So if you are from Zimbabwe, you're living in Zimbabwe now, or you're living in South Africa now, you're listening to the show, this definitely concerns you. But even for the rest of South Africans, the Minister of Home Affairs has decided to extend the deadline of Zimbabwean exemption permits to November of next year, so 1 year extension. Without the latest extension, the ZEP holders may have been at risk of being declared undesirable after today's deadline, this end of November deadline. So today's reprieve means that existing ZEPs, that means those who have these exemption permits, will now remain valid for another 12 months, and there's some significant conversations to be had around that in terms of what happens if you are a Zimbabwean. Can you be stopped? Can't you be stopped around that with regard to perhaps whether you should be in the country in the first place? So let's get to talking about that and what the implications are. With me is Bongani Mkhwanazi, who's the spokesperson for the Zimbabwean community in South Africa. Bongani, thank you for connecting to the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf, and thanks to the listeners.
Thank you. I would think many Zimbabweans, regarding the issues of exemption permits, would have had their pulse rate racing in the last few days, right?
Yes, it's been quite a very difficult period since the stopping of the exemption permit, with a lot of uncertainty. Pronouncements being a bit confusing. Essentially, what the minister has simply done for Zimbabweans here is that instead of applying for exemption permits, which the previous minister had announced that Zimbabweans can then apply for an exemption permit, which would have ended at the same time the minister is now announcing, Zimbabweans now automatically will now have the ZEP extended to November next year. But it technically it goes back to the same thing that Minister Mzwaledi had said. The difference being they don't need to now go through the process of applying for that exemption extension.
Okay, just so we understand this, What is the difference between a permit, a Zimbabwean permit to work in South Africa versus a Zimbabwean exemption permit? Is that something different, or are we talking about the same thing?
You'll go back to 2010 when the special dispensation for Zimbabweans was announced after a realization that most Zimbabweans were mostly economic migrants, and now they could not qualify for refugee or asylum status really. So they were given that special status, which allowed them to work, do business, and study. And it was then extended as the ZSP, the Zimbabwe Special Project. Then it was also extended again as Zimbabwe Exemption Permit. So it is the prerogative of a minister to give a certain group of people that he deems fit to be exempted from applying through normal migration regulations.
Now, I understand that the permit itself, the exemption, was withdrawn by the former minister Aaron Motsoaledi, right? Why was it withdrawn then?
Well, his argument was that a temporary permit cannot be extended forever, and that Zimbabweans needed to migrate to mainstream permits. The mechanisms of migrating, we argued then that they were still as cumbersome. So essentially, they couldn't migrate without some waiver or such. Then we had encouraged people to migrate to waivers. So his insistence was that a temporary solution cannot continue permanently.
All right. So, and do you, I mean, you made the point it may be very difficult over a period, but in principle, do you agree that you have to migrate from temporary to something permanent?
Yes, it's actually puts people's lives in a situation where they are always uncertain of their future. So a migration to a more permanent solution is what would be the best for Zimbabweans. We're talking of people who have been here for a very long time, more than 15, 20, 30 years for some.
So they love, I mean, this is home for them in that case, yeah?
It's become home. You can imagine if someone is now maybe in their 45s, 50s, or even late 30s, to go back to Zimbabwe, even if the economy was good, and start a new life there, will be much difficult situation.
Is there? What's the likely scenario? I mean, you're talking about moving from temporary to permanent. What about temporary to nothing at all? That means the other way, where in fact your permit's expired, the temporary is expired, you need to go back home.
That would present a lot of challenges for Zimbabweans. What we would foresee is that we would find people actually now rendered illegal. We have seen that the situation that brought many Zimbabweans to South Africa in the first place has not improved. So now, for them to up and go, while it is easy to just say that, there's a lot of dynamics which would make it very difficult for them to actually make a living in Zimbabwe. Now, you will then find people trying to do backdoors and staying in the country illegally. Not that we encourage that, but that is the reality that we are likely to face.
In fact, the Minister of the Minister of Home Affairs said that the primary issue around the extension is not so much some of the compassionate issues you referred to, but simply to give them more time regarding high court requirements. Remember that after Aaron Motsoaledi said what he said, there was an issue by certainly from people like yourself to try and challenge it, and there was an attempt to take it to the Supreme Court as well, right? So this gives them more time to prepare and plan around that.
He is complying to that court ruling to give time, but in his submission, he says he's still putting up the immigration board, and the immigration board has got to sit and deliberate on that. So immediately the immigration board is fully constituted. Their first task will be to deal with this Zimbabwe exemption issue, and then a pronouncement will be made. But it also, for many Zimbabweans, it presents a lot of uncertainty. While there's been an extension for a year, we have found a lot of people struggling, companies sometimes laying them off, saying they don't have a permit, it's expired. Because remember, even when there was some extensions or the announcement of an application for exemption, there was no stickers being put on these passports. So one would be going around with an expired sticker, and some people, maybe out of ignorance or just plain malice, would actually insist that your permit is expired. We have situations where people's bank accounts have been closed. We actually end up dealing with a lot of people facing issues. Even now, as people were applying for waivers, we found that VFS, the dates are not allocated. People applied for their waivers, and the results are a mixed up concoction of letters where someone was working as a waiter, but now they've been given a letter as a nurse. So there's been a lot of issues that Zimbabweans are facing.
Now, I mean, interestingly enough, the High Court ruled that the decision taken by the previous minister was unlawful. I mean, that, of course, as you know, government challenged, and that was turned down from an appeal point of view, but that issue continues. In the meantime, there's confirmation, and this is important certainly from an audience point of view, no holder of a ZEP may be arrested, ordered to depart, or be detained for purposes of deportation or deported in terms of Section 34 of the Immigration Act for any reason related to him or her not having any valid exemption certificate. This, of course, comes through from the Department of Home Affairs. Now, in the light of that, does that mean that no Zimbabwean can be stopped and asked about their legal status in this country, or is it only people who had those valid certificates? What I mean, how would someone know that?
Well, this applies to ZEP holders. It doesn't mean you cannot be stopped and the authorities inquire of your status. They are legitimately authorized to do that. But as a ZEP holder, if you show that you are a ZEP holder, they should then let you go in the understanding that there's been an announcement by the minister.
Okay, so with that in mind, just the last thing, I mean, my understanding is that nobody can be stopped. No holder of a ZEP may be arrested. Okay, you're making the point. That's fair enough. What are the people of Zimbabwe, the people that you represent, your constituency, what are they saying today upon hearing this announcement?
A lot have been calling, they're a bit confused because we had embarked on a step like giving out information that they should apply for waivers so that they can migrate to the mainstream general work visa. So now there's a lot of confusion. People are not too sure what to do, because while this pronouncement says you've got another 12 months, it's still 12 months is quite a short period. In the very near future, you might find yourself sitting with me talking about this very same issue. And now, in between that, the pronouncement that needs to be met by the Immigration Board, people are now no longer too sure. And a lot of people who had applied for waivers, what happens to those waiting for waivers? Should they now migrate still via the waiver method, or is there going to be a favorable announcement? What is going to happen? So it leaves a lot of uncertainty for a lot of them. So currently the reprieve is that most people would have wanted to go home for holidays to see their families, but that is as much as they get. But in a way, it also helps them be extended at work if there was now uncertainty at work. But now you'll realize some of these people would have been on permanent contracts, which some companies are reducing to temporary contracts, and now they're being given a year. So there becomes a lot of complexities around this.
Yeah, okay, that's where we can leave it. Lots to consider there, but here's the bottom line. At this point in time, if you're a Zimbabwean and you had your Zimbabwean exemption permit that was effectively expired because it was cancelled by the previous minister, Aaron Motsoaledi, at this point in time, nobody can do anything to you about it for another year. At least there's been a 1-year extension to November 2025. Now, this is the National Pulse. You perhaps can tell me what moves the National Pulse and how does that story move you, whether you're a Zimbabwean, whether you're non-Zimbabwean, South African living in the country, impacted by the decision that goes on with our neighbors, right? Either way, I'd like to get your opinion. 086 000 2032. We talk Global Watch about our other neighbor now, and that's Namibia.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Imagine if every child born today and tomorrow and the next day and the next had enough love, enough food, enough safety, and brain power. Today and tomorrow and the next day and the next. Together, we will change our future. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So, in fact, the Friday Fireside Chat guest that we have is the former Minister of Tourism. Yeah, he certainly was. He's not there any longer. We'll chat to him after 5 o'clock, looking forward to that. So let's talk about Namibia. So we know the election day was on Wednesday officially, but voting continues in 36 polling stations today. This really mainly because of a chaotic election start on Wednesday. Lots of technical glitches, and there were accusations of shortage of ballot papers in some polling stations. And then, as a result of that, some of the opposition polling parties have been demanding that the country's electoral commission to stop vote counting over allegations of unprofessional conduct. That certainly was not the case in the day sort of leading up to the election. So have things changed, and then where will all this end? Let's get the thoughts of Otto Gottlieb, who's the news reporter for the Namibian newspaper. Otto, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you, right, appreciate it. Okay, so what is the state of Namibia and the Namibian election now?
Well, it might be a little bit too early to draw an exact picture of what exactly is happening, but one thing is for sure, as you are aware, polls were officially opened on the 27th, which was the past Wednesday, and due to certain irregularities that the Electoral Commission of Namibia had picked up, and also due to various grievances filed with the commission by its primary stakeholders, which is the political parties, they yesterday gave or issued a directive that the polls should continue to run between 29 and 30 November, which is today and tomorrow. So as it is currently, there has been a couple of polling stations across the country that have been identified where I think they experience most trouble. And as we speak, the polls are open as we speak to the public, and people are busy voting.
Okay, now some of the issues that I have raised, right? The fact that it's continued till today, and I understand there's many of the polling booths still voting. How much of a problem has that been?
Well, I am stationed in the capital city, which is Windhoek, and the Commerce region. The Commerce region has been designated only one polling station, and I'm in fact coming from there not too long ago. I had an opportunity to chat with the presiding officer there, and he says that the progress has been quite notable, and he also confirmed that the Electoral Commission has reinforced his team. They now have a bigger or a stronger team as far as manpower is concerned, and they also have more voting booths now, which has enabled voters or enabled them to assist more voters at once.
Now, I understand that some of the opposition party have called for that vote count to stop, which then brings me to the all-important issue always. There's some niggles happen. They happen in all elections, including in South Africa. But when opposition parties talking about that, then it casts a doubt on the validity of the overall election and therefore the election results. Is that a big issue at this point in time, or is it just isolated voices?
Yesterday we had an engagement with the political parties, particularly the opposition political parties, as the ruling party refused to be part of that meeting. And after they converged, they had a briefing with the media, and they disclosed that they were going to sign a petition, which was signed by most, I think 95% of the political parties signed and said that they were not going to accept the results that the ECN would make available. And of course, a few of the polling stations have been sending in results. They have been trickling in, but they were supposed to have a meeting yesterday or last night rather, which was then supposed to be followed by a statement to be shared with the media. That statement has not what they plan to do, but the polls are still underway. People are still voting, and stations that were not affected by the situation have in fact closed and are, as we speak, sending in their results.
Okay, and then lastly, what do you think is likely to happen with the results? We know SWAPO are the incumbent party. I understand they've been the favourites going into the election. Is that likely to remain?
Well, there's the truth of the matter is that with the results that are available, it really seems, or it really appears to be a contest between the SWAPO and the IPC, with the others also following suit, of course. But there has been, I think it's not really clear yet, given the fact that the polls are still open, and that the fact that people are still voting, and there's still polling stations that are done and still counting. So it's not quite vivid at this point what exactly may transpire.
Okay, so you can't make a call then yourself.
In the light of objectivity, I may not be able to.
Okay, that's where we can leave it, in the light of objectivity. Thank you for your time, Otto Gottlieb, news reporter for the Namibian newspaper. We'll probably get those results midway through next week or so, I'm sure about that. So there's a sense, what happened in Namibia be the case of, or rather what's happened in Botswana happened in Namibia, and the South African example, where again the ANC dropped significantly, not out of power completely, but they need to be in power only if they share. Could that be the same case in Namibia as well? Consider all of that and give me your opinion about where Namibia is heading with regard to its election. It's 3:30 is the news headlines with Taneo Mutau.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 3:30. The South African National Defence Force in Limpopo says it is anticipating a high level of illegal border crossings and trading before the festive season. In other news, economists have warned South Africans to avoid impulse buying today on Black Friday, and a power cut has plunged Zimbabwe's parliament into darkness as Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube was finishing his 2025 budget speech. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 northbound in Germiston has a crash near Goudness Interchange. Rietfontein Road in Boksburg is slow moving near East Rand Shopping Centre. In Pretoria, the N4 eastbound has a crash reported before Watermeyer Street. All lanes are open. And the N1 southbound has a vehicle fire incident reported near Linwood Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Cliffdale. The N3 eastbound in Pietermaritzburg has a serious crash reported after Chatterton Road exit, causing some heavy traffic delays. The N3 in Pinetown, slow moving at Moen Hill Toll Plaza. The N3 eastbound has a crash before Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 westbound, a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, Festive Lights Switch On is happening this weekend, so there'll be extensive road closures in the city centre area from Saturday afternoon until early Monday morning for the Festive Lights Switch On event, which takes place on Sunday. The N7 Jakes Hadville Drive southbound in Epping is closed at Viking Way. That's due to collapsed road surface on the bridge towards Beaufort Circle, and the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma Jean.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Chumi, lots to talk about in the world of sport. There's also cricket on the go, but you want to start with Banyana, right?
Absolutely. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Yes, we're starting with Banyana, who are in action today. And Banyana coach Desiree Ellis says that fatigue could play a major role when they take on Jamaica in Montego Bay tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. South African time. This will be the first of two matches between the two nations, which the African champions are using to prepare next year's CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations, which is scheduled for Morocco in July. Now, after a grueling season, most of the players have completed their league assignments, and Ellis says that they have to hit the ground running.
We went to Denmark and we went to England. We had 2 sessions before Denmark and we had 2 sessions before England, which was practically a match to -2 and a match to -1. So it's something that we're quite used to, but it's difficult because you have players coming in, you have new players coming in, and it takes a while for people to settle. But we all have to hit the ground running and make sure that what we're going to do, that everybody understands. It's really important. I think the jet lag might play a part later in the game because, you definitely will run out of legs, also with it being a long season. But we'll see how we can manage that as well. And then it's obviously a second game, and I think we will be a bit better in terms of recovering from the jet lag. But fatigue this time of the season, we have to take care of that as well. And that is really going to be important.
Well, still staying with football, Richards Bay chairman Jomo Biela has told the club and coach, or has told SABC rather, that the club and coach Brandon Tritter have parted ways. This comes off the back of the Natal Rich Boys losing 2-1 to Kaizer Chiefs in the Betway Premiership on Wednesday night at the Peter Mokaba Stadium, despite the visitors having a numerical advantage. Richards Bay are now third from the bottom of the log after 8 fixtures with just 1 win. That Biela felt that they did not meet the performance requirements. In the meantime, Mamelodi Sundowns defender Grant Kakana says that they need to start lifting their standards to those of reigning league champions. The Brazilians are eager to bounce back from the culling knockout final defeat to Magesi, as well as being held to a goalless draw by DR Congo outfit AS Maniema in the CAF Champions League group stage opener. And Kakana wants the squad to return to winning ways, starting with Kukune United in the Betway Premiership tomorrow night.
It's been a tough week. Obviously disappointed with the results of the final. We also couldn't get a victory away in our first Champions League game, so we're trying to pick each other up. We know it's still a long season ahead and we can't really cry over spilled milk. We just need to rectify where we have to and make sure that we start winning games again.
Right then, moving on to cricket, Themba Bavuma and Tristan Stubbs led the Proteas to dominance on day 3 of the first test against Sri Lanka in Durban. At lunch, South Africa had reached 233 for 3 in their second innings, an overall lead of 382, with Bavuma and Stubbs having so far added 144 of 290 balls for the 4th wicket. But in terms of the score right now, Sri Lanka are currently batting. They're sitting on 17 for 1, and they need 499 runs to win. But just to give you the score stats, Themba Bavuma being praised today after scoring his third test century. I think he scored 113. So a big congratulations to him, and a lot to say about him, because I keep asking myself, especially when it comes to Themba Bavuma, he's always criticized when he's not scoring. However, the likes of Aiden Markram, when they don't score as much as he does, they're not as criticized. But story for another day. Meanwhile, Harry Brooks' century helped England bounce back into the first test against New Zealand on the second day in Christchurch. Brooke was dropped 4 times in his unbeaten 132, without which England might already be on the way to defeat. Now, the Kiwis dropped 6 overall, 3 by captain Tom Latham in England's 319 for 529 runs behind. In rugby, an experienced and formidable member of the Vodacom Bulls pack is reportedly on the radar of Premiership sides Gloucester and Bristol Bears. According to reports, the Premiership clubs are said to be vying for tight head prop Monet Smith's signature, and this is ahead of the 2024-25 season. Now, despite having a year left on his Bulls contract, the 26-year-old could be set for an early exit, with the Pretoria outfit understood to be willing to release him. And finally, in motorsport, Lewis Hamilton says that he's totally fine with having to wait until next year for his first Ferrari Formula One test, even though it could make life harder at the start of his move from Mercedes. Hamilton is replacing Spaniard's Carlos Sainz in the Italian team, but Mercedes are holding him to his contract until the end of the year to fulfill sponsor commitments, and this means that Hamilton will not be free for the post-season test in Abu Dhabi after next month's finale. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, perfect, Jimmy. Lots to talk about. Yes, it's going to be another busy weekend. But by the way, that Sri Lankan team, what did they get 40-odd in the first innings? And someone asked the question, and it's true, why do they start a test match on a Wednesday? So today's day 3, if I'm not mistaken, which means, if anything, it's going to just creep into Saturday at most lunchtime. It shouldn't go longer than that. I don't think so, unless Sri Lanka scores 400 and wins the match. That's not likely to happen, is it? Who am I to know? Right, let's get to some of your calls.
The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one Outsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to buy an Outsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote, and to find out about included benefits like panic assistance that sends the nearest medical or armed response unit to you wherever you may be 24/7. Here's Yusuf.
45 years old from Tegendal, Western Cape. I pay 700 Rand for my Polo 1.6 2021 model. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, definitely get in touch.
Give it a go. SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Get ready to honor Madiba's legacy together. Join us on 8 December at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Gauteng, as we pay tribute to Nelson Mandela with the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run. There's a distance for everyone: 21 kilometers, 10-kilometer run, and a 5-kilometer scenic walk. Enjoy loads of entertainment and plenty of fun for the kids. If you can't be there in person, you can participate from wherever you are, uniting with thousands around the country to honor Nelson Mandela's vision of unity, equality, and a just society. All proceeds will support the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Register now at mandelawalkandrun.com. Let's come together to remember Madiba. In proud partnership with Gauteng Province, the City of Tshwane, and SABC Sport. See you there. Let's make it a day to remember.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Quick thoughts on the goings-on regarding the Zimbabwean exemption permits. Bramoro in Bloom, go ahead, hello. Bramoro, hello. Do I have... no,
yeah, hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
You're live on the air. Go ahead. What's your point?
Yeah, my point is, can you please get hold of the Home Affairs Minister and ask him why are foreigners not getting appointment to submit their applications at VFS? I'm not speaking in solidarity with the Zimbabweans because some of them are just lazy. They decide to act on the last minute, which is their problem. I don't have anything to do with that. But me from Ghana using the mainstream permits, I'm being denied the opportunity to submit my application at VFS, which is just a courier service that takes the application, send it to Home Affairs. But the problem is we are unable to get appointments. It started from last month, October, this month, November, and even December. The only date for appointment are January 2025, which is totally wrong because some of us, our permits are expiring even today, last month and this month, etc. And then we have new applicants who also want to submit the application.
Well, I'll tell you what, maybe the right answer is we need to get the minister or the DG and explain a whole lot of issues around different countries, because I understand there's also bilateral relationships with countries, so what they agree or disagree with Zimbabwe may not be the same with Ghana. I mean, I hear that, okay? But the only way to do that is to actually get them on board. I can't tell you when, but hopefully soon, okay? I certainly get that. Thanks for the call.
I trust you can make it happen.
Much appreciated. Thank you. And I trust you can live a life in peace and luxury and all the things that I think most people in the world aspire to. Seriously. Immigrants, non-immigrants, it doesn't matter. We ultimately aspire for the very same things. Okay, let's talk about another thing that I suppose we aspire to, which is creating safe spaces for children to play. I mean, don't you do that? We all want that, don't we? Right? Now, this coming Sunday, the Bright Spark Foundation will host a workshop, and it takes place at the Hanley Business School, somebody I know very well, with their dean, who does some fabulous work, John Foster Padley. And they've invited 70 children from disadvantaged backgrounds to an afternoon of play where they will engage in finding solutions, and the key word is solutions, and creating safe spaces of play tailored to their community needs. Let's get the story and the backstory behind that with Welcome Vidboy, who's the founder of Bright Spark Foundation. Welcome, appreciate your time. You're connected to the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so so this weekend's big. It's going to be a big day, right?
Yeah, no, the idea, and you know why it's so close to us, because we understand that there's been a lot of child shootings happening within the Western Cape, in Johannesburg recently, even last week when we lost little Layla, just from walking from one area just to the Spaza shop around the corner, a gang fight, and then she lost her life, 2-year-old, and that is the sadness of the situation. But I'm happy that people are coming together to say, how do we create safe spaces for kids so that they can play safely and just be kids, because that's the thing. They can't be kids anymore because they're always indoors and they can't go out because they're afraid of what might happen. So this is actually a really, really big thing for us.
All right, so then what will happen on Sunday? And then maybe the bigger, broader question is, how do you then replicate what happens on Sunday when these children get out of the Hanley Business School and get back to their homes and their neighborhoods?
Yeah, so we've been working with these kids in the various communities, especially from the vulnerable communities within Johannesburg that are very much impacted and affected by gang violence. So the objective here is to come together, have an opportunity where they can safely play, but while playing, we have this program called Design Thinking with Children, where we will be working on ideas and asking them what would their ideal safe space look like. So they have an opportunity to build it for us. And once they've done that, we have various models that they can bring to us, and we will then implement these models within their own very communities. That's the plan, so that we can have a much more longer lasting idea around creating safe spaces of play.
Well, that makes sense. So tell me more about the actual program that takes place on Sunday.
So the actual program is, so we always, as adults, we know that we run into a situation in trying to find the solution. So we say to the kids, this is the solution. But on Sunday, what we want to do is that we want to actually give the kids the tools to say, you know what the problem is in your community. What do you think we should do in order to improve such situations? So design thinking is created around them giving us the solutions and creating the solutions for their own communities. So it's like working with them in saying, what do you think a safe park looks like? What do you think a place of safety looks like? What do you think a play area of safety looks like? Design it for us. And then what we do is that we take that design and we build it on a larger scale.
Now, I've noticed, I looked at your poster, and this says so much, where you've got, the usual we the people, and you've got that scratched out, the word people, to we the children. And in that just simple line, it just changes perspectives completely, isn't it? Do you think, therefore, that not enough attention is truly paid to understanding what goes on in the minds of children and creating the spaces for them to flourish?
Yeah, and and that's so painful because our constitution is so adamant in saying that the children come first. We need to protect women and children, especially in this month. But yet we've seen 23 children dying last week of food poisoning. We've had 48 children dying because of gang violence on the streets. We've had 333 kids affected and impacted by getting hurt, while supposedly to be protected by our constitution. So I feel like we are focusing so much on what's happening in the world and people that we are not really understanding that the actual people are our children. Without them, there's no people. So we need to protect them. And therefore, this is such an important and very passionate drive for me.
Explain the partnership with Henley Business School.
I'm studying at Henley Business School. I'm an alumni. I'm also doing my ADMP there. So we have a very long relationship since the beginning of time that we formulated because of the community work that I'm doing and being sponsored or given a scholarship because of the work that I do. Henley Business School says we can't just give you a scholarship. Let us continue helping and supporting the work that you do. And many other alumni that are doing awesome work out there are being supported by Henley Business School. So I really feel honored that they've come alongside us to make sure that we can create safer environments, because out of those environments will come the leaders of tomorrow.
Well, we certainly all agree about that. We the children, we the leaders. That's a good challenge. Is there any final point, something that you'd like to tell us about this project that we need to know?
Yeah, no, the thing is, it's open to anybody that has ideas. As Bright Spark Foundation, we always say, if there's other people out there that are going through the same situations, we are open to ideas, we are open to suggestions, we are open to hearing your side. So therefore, drop us, connect with us, communicate with us. We're on social media, and share your ideas, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Certainly gets me thinking. Welcome Witbooi, who's the founder of the Bright Spark Foundation, and really all about creating spaces for young children to play in and to thrive and to develop their personalities away from the troubles of the world that we all know, only we're too aware of it. Absolutely. Okay, do you have any bright ideas that you may have in terms of how things have changed in terms of projects that make things much safer for children? That's one thing. The other one is any thoughts and opinions around the conversation I had around Zimbabwe, as well as about Namibia too? We've had a conversation about Black Friday. Here's one.
Hey neighbor, heard of any Black Friday specials?
Nah bro, no Black Friday for me, eh? These people always take me for a ride.
Not at We Buy Cars. You could take yourself for a ride in one of their many cars on their floor.
Okay, I'm listening.
They have massive price drops, and this Black Friday is their Black Tie Day. Just arrive in any formal attire and you can double your discount on their specials wheel.
No man, impossible. Now you taking me for a ride.
Genian, take yourself for a ride to any We Buy Cars and see for yourself.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to buy a car this Black Friday.
Think festive season. Can you hear it? See it? Now imagine it purple. Yes, forget the tinsel, because Click season is purple. It's that time of the year for the famous Clicks 3-for-2 purple sticker promotion. Mix and match any 3 festive gifts with a purple sticker and get the cheapest one free. Clicks. Feel good, pay less. Deals valid until 24 December or while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Okay, in fact, we'll play some of the WhatsApp comments just now. Let's move on to another a really important issue. If you understand the conversations we had in the build-up to the May 29 election, right? And this concerns party political funding, right? So now the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, have released the political funding's second quarter disclosure report for the 2024-25 financial year, right? Now, of this, just 3 political parties have made declarations of their donations. I wonder if you can guess which one they are, right? Which are the 3? With me is Matsobane Nkoko, who's the IEC manager for political party funding. Good of you to connect with us here on the National Pulse, Matsobane.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to the listeners.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're at the political party funding, if you're heading up that project, that's the hot potato. And now that I hear that only 3 political parties have actually provided information about their donations, first of all, tell me who they are.
Ashraf, the 3 political parties are, the 3, I'll call them old parties in terms of age, just about. Is the African National Congress, is the Inkatha Freedom Party, and the Democratic Alliance. Those are the only 3 parties that declared donations for the second quarter 24-25 financial year.
Okay, help us understand this. In terms of the law, are they required to provide this information as a matter of law, as a matter of course, or is it completely voluntary?
It's a very good question, Ashraf. It's a matter of law that they have declared these donations. But a very important aspect of the law is that it's only donations that are above a 100,000 threshold that was received from a single donor. Now, the amounts that we're talking about here would have been received from a single donor, so to speak, at an amount of above 100,000. It is possible that there may have been other donations that fell below the 100,000 threshold. Those ones we are not reporting on in this report, but rather they are subject of, the annual financial statements that we get to see at the end of the financial year.
Okay, but I mean, conversely, it seems almost unthinkable that the parties, big and small, never received a single donation above 100,000 rands. I mean, that just is unthinkable, right?
I wouldn't say so, Ashraf. The period and the time we are in, I think for me, explains a lot. If you remember very well, the 2 quarters immediately before the elections, we reported some of the highest, if not the ultimate highest donation disclosures. If you remember, in quarter 4 of the 2023-24 financial year, and this is the period January to March 2024, we reported 172 million, which I think was at the time the highest. As if that's not enough, in the subsequent quarter, which was quarter 1, 24-25 financial year, meaning the period April to June 2024, we reported a whopping 190 million. So it tells you that there is a very strong link or relationship between the fundraising machinery, the donors opening their purses and so forth, and election activity. So we are sitting now at a period that is, one could say, barren from that point of view. And therefore, it's not surprising that we are not seeing much activity. Funders have closed their purses. I also, well, I'm sure political parties would like to receive money continuously, but I'm sure they are putting their energies into something else. So from where we stand, we are anticipating that this trend is going to continue for a few more quarters until the 2026 local government election season kicks in. And that might be, maybe in another, 3 quarters from now, so to speak. We're expecting those elections will be in 2026, Ashraf. And I'm imagining that for the most part of 2025, there's not going to be much activity as far as we are reading the numbers.
Understand. So how should then the public, and the show is called The National Pulse, they try and get a feel of the pulse of a nation. How should they interpret all of this?
The public must really understand that money and politics really converge at the point where there's election around the corner. And for that, it's very important that members of the public pay attention to see who are the major players, where are they putting their money in that particular fashion, meaning where are they directing attention, where are they, if you like, pushing for votes. It's very clear that, as I indicated, money and politics are very, very closely linked, and therefore, we have seen, towards the election, newly formed parties received huge financial backing. And guess what? Came the end of, the election period and the result announcement period. Those parties have earned seats, sometimes, even bigger than parties that would have been around for a while. I'm talking here parties like your Rise Mzansi. They possibly got numbers that either challenge or above, your old parties like PAC and all of that, because money was really made available.
But maybe, and this is the point to you, therefore, it's not maybe directly your domain, but it's clearly related, which is this, right? Can we draw a correlation, a relationship between money equals votes? That means per 100 rands received, as a percentage of that, you're likely to get more votes, or is that not the case?
It's not that linear. However, that relationship cannot be dismissed. I shudder that to imagine that, whoever raises bigger money will, as an example, the Democratic Alliance, I think, accounted for the largest contribution in those two quarters, the largest donations in the quarter 4 and quarter 1. But they still fell lower than your African National Congress and I think your MKP, as it were. I speak under correction there. But what I'm saying is that the relationship does definitely exist, but there may be other extenuating factors that play a role. It cannot just be that linear relationship.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and certainly for enlightening us on those issues here. And that's Matsobane Nkoko, the IEC manager for political party funding. And this links to funding for the report 2024-25 financial year. 3 political parties have made declarations of their donations. ANC, DA, IFP. Remember, you are obliged to declare any donations made over 100,000 rand. So what all that means in the context of all this, well, you can work that one out. Thank you for your time. Let's get this. I'll tell you who we're having as our guest for the Friday Fireside Chat just after the news. In the meantime, we've asked you to comment on some of the biggest issues. There's some comments regarding what I'd call, Black Friday, certainly. Let's see if I can play some of those. Let me just see if I can sort that out before we get to these. Okay, here's a Black Friday comment.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. This is Floris from the Western Cape. Nice and warm here today. For me, the one word is impulsiveness. Yeah. These days, especially on Black Friday, people buy on impulse. Let me tell you, Ashraf, if there is a deal and you don't need it, then it's not a deal. If you want something, you're going to buy it, you're going to change yourself short. Leave the wants for people who need it. Then it's a deal for that person. But if you want something, then it's not a deal if you're going to buy it. So yeah, people buy on impulse. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Do they really buy on impulse? I tell you what, my wife and I just bought something now because it's Black Friday. I'll give you the reasons behind it just now, okay? And I'll share my opinion. Lots more to come on the National Pulse, including the Fireside Chat after 5, where we have a guest and we speak to that person for 1 hour. We'll also chat about the African Innovation Academy at the Langa High School and see what plans they've got. An update on the goings-on at the Stilfontein mine. It certainly dominated much of our conversations of the past week or two, right? But let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Deneo Matau.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories. SA gears up for a festive season. Border management and Zimbabwe parliament hit by power cut during budget speech. A very good afternoon. The National Defence Force in Limpopo says they are aware of the plans by people involved in illegal border crossings and smuggling to try and counter the higher number of patrols by authorities over the festive season. They say NDF says it will be looking to curb illicit border trading and smuggling at the Beitbridge border post and along the Limpopo River borderline. SA NDF spokesperson Shilangoma Mahlahlani.
What they do, they check our movement because there are high grounds that they are using. So you would find that when we patrol to the east, then they can see our movement and they will try to pass on the west. So that is what mostly is a penny. So they can detect our movements, and that is where they are taking advantage of the situation.
Meanwhile, this undocumented foreign national says they use different routes to evade detection.
To come this side, there are a lot of ways. Even if you go straight way, there are a lot of ways which to jump to through the river to come to this side. Even here, it's a way also to go there. Even here, you can see there are a lot of ways which can go back there to Zimbabwe if you don't have papers.
In other news, 3 alleged illegal miners have been killed in a shootout with the police in Sabie, Mpumalanga. It is alleged that the Zamazamas attacked police and other law enforcement officials who were conducting routine patrols around one of the mining shafts in the area. A police officer was shot in the leg during the incident. Provincial Police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says rifles and ammunition were recovered at the scene.
During the incident, 2 AK-47 rifles as well as approximately 500 rounds of ammunition for AK-47 rifle were recovered at the crime scene. A case has been opened in regard to this incident, whereby the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, the IPD in short, are conducting their investigation with regard to circumstances surrounding this incident.
Economists have warned South Africans to avoid impulse buying today on Black Friday. Director and Chief Economist at Econometrics, Azar Jamin, says making a list and setting a budget will help to avoid overspending.
If people have identified a need to purchase some particular good or service and it is on offer at a big discount today, it does make sense for them to buy that day, depending upon what the cost is. But if it's a case of just seeing something looking attractive and buying it, not being sure that you actually need to buy that good, then unfortunately what we're going to see is a lot of people getting into financial difficulty as a consequence of this. Yes, there has been some recovery, but it's marginal. It's not a dramatic improvement.
Lastly, a power cut has plunged Zimbabwe's parliament into darkness as Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube was finishing his 2025 budget speech. Zimbabweans already face prolonged daily power cuts lasting up to 12 hours. The extended load shedding is attributed to reduced energy output from the country's main power source, Kariba South Hydropower Station. George Mayanya, a spokesperson from Zimbabwe Electricity Supply Authority, told local news site ZimLive that the blackout happened because of a lightning strike. Recapping the top story this hour, the National Defence Force in Limpopo says they are aware of the plans by people involved in illegal border crossings and smuggling to try and counter the higher number of patrols by authorities over the festive season. Headlines at 4:30 for SFM News. I am Dino Motau.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Mulder ruled out of Sri Lanka Test Series. Stormers recall fit against Sasha. And Hala Brown's on tennis doping body for Swiatek leniency. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Melrose has a crash before Colette Drive. The R24 westbound in Edenvale queuing towards the N12 highway merge. The N3 northbound in Germiston has a crash reported near Galdnes interchange. In Pretoria, the N1 southbound has that vehicle fire incident reported near Linwood Road, and Pretoria Street has a crash reported between Kilnerton Road and Kusurnia Avenue. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a crash reported near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 in Pinetown is slow moving at Murray and Hill Toll Plaza. The N3 westbound in Hillcrest has a stationary truck reported at Key Ridge. The N3 eastbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. Heavy traffic reported in the Durban CBD area, so expect delays. And Umgeni Road is queuing through Springfield Park. In Limpopo, on the N1 northbound, a crash recovery underway, so one lane is open before the Bella Bella exits. You asked to expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is queuing towards the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive, the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound queuing towards Voortrekker Road, the N1 outbound is queuing towards Okavango Road, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 northbound is queuing towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply. Get ready to honor Madiba's legacy together. Join us on 8 December at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Gauteng, as we pay tribute to Nelson Mandela with the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run. There's a distance for everyone: 21 kilometers, 10-kilometer run, and a 5-kilometer scenic walk. Enjoy loads of entertainment and plenty of fun for the kids. If you can't be there in person, you can participate from wherever you are, uniting with thousands around the country to honor Nelson Mandela's vision of unity, equality, and a just society. All proceeds will support the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Register now at mandelawalkandrun.com. Let's come together to remember Madiba. In proud partnership with Gauteng Province, the City of Tshwane, and SABC Sport. See you there. Let's make it a day to remember.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So I did tell you earlier on that we're having a fascinating guest after 5 o'clock, because we do this every Friday, and we have a guest that we speak to for about an hour, and we talk about all sorts of things, very light-hearted, but about the journeys, some serious issues, and we learn lots about him or her. Well, today my guest is Derek Hanekom. Looking forward to chatting to him. At this point in time, he's got two significant portfolios that I can think about. One is the current chair of the SAA, South African Airways, yeah. And then he's also the chairperson of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. So two significant positions he holds. Former MP, former cabinet minister of the ANC government, right? So that's the one thing. Now, just my quick thought. I was asked by Tumi yesterday about what do I think about Black Friday. And then I put the same question to my wife. And I said, Jamila, do you think that, in fact, we, in a situation where, we just splash out lavishly on Black Friday? And interestingly, she said what I would have said, which is, no, we don't, actually, right? But what we do is this. You don't go out because things are on sale. You just go and rush and buy things you don't need. Like, you buy 100 liters of milk because they're at half price because you have no need for that. I know it goes off, but you get my point. But what you do is this, and we certainly do that, is we anticipate that what we need, work out the price of what it is now, and then what it may likely be around Big Friday, and then buy it. So, for example, right now we've done that. There's a certain item. Let me not tell you what it is. There's a certain item, and you can work it out, that we held back on, accepting that it's very linked to water shortages. And we held back, and then we find on Black Friday, it's a Big Friday, Black Friday, we have a situation where that item now is like 25% cheaper than we would have gotten it if it was not for Black Friday. So in the context of that, Black Friday doesn't persuade us to buy things we don't need, but in fact it allows us the opportunity of getting things at a special price. So it's less about us, actually, and more about the strategic marketing of businesses and whether Black Friday allows them to push for additional sales to try and offload stock, which otherwise would have filled up and accumulated in their warehouses. So it creates liquidity in their businesses, and it allows consumers to actually get what they want ahead of the Christmas season. I don't see much wrong with that. So from that point of view, I'm certainly for it. I do accept those that buy for Black Friday and go crazy because something's at half price, like I'm saying, buying 100 liters of milk because it's on a special. You don't do that sort of thing, right? That's foolhardy, but I'm not one of them. I'm one of those, and certainly in the family situation, we're very strategic about what we can do. And if we can benefit out of it because of that, we're like, hey, that's the clever way to do it. So turn it around about how you can benefit from Black Friday as opposed to what is the current narrative from many people who think like, Black Friday is a way of exploiting you. It can never be if you don't allow yourself to be exploited. Well, that's my point. What's yours?
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Right, Butana in Rosebank, how are you?
Good afternoon, my brother. I'm good.
Sweet.
I'm good.
Hey, listen, did you see the other day somebody wanted to meet you and connect with you? Did you know that?
No, I was not aware.
Well, it's now they were speaking about you over the whole country because this is the national pulse. The whole country listens. So here's the thing. Somebody called in to say they love the way you sound. You have this strong voice. You have this high energy. And this person wants to bounce up a few things with you. Now, I don't know the person. And all I said is we will get that person, maybe leave his number with Keys, my producer, and we'll ask you whether it's okay to pass it on as well. So maybe if it's okay with you, then I'll get Busari to keep your number today. And then if that same person listens in, or maybe they've left a number already with Keys, we'll try and connect you. If you say no to that, that's fine. But you don't have to answer it on air. You can think about it. Right, what's your point?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll answer it off air. You know, Zile, he has told us.
Oh, now we can't hear you any longer. Butana, you still there? No, man. This is like a Black. This is like a Black Friday joke, like we'd speak about other things and then he gets cut off completely. Let's see if we can connect with him in a moment. Here's another Black Friday conversation point.
Afternoon, Ashraf. My one word to describe Black Friday is scam. This is Nkunzi from Kwatema.
Okay, interesting. You say it's a scam. You probably heard what I said just now, that I think it's really up to you in terms of what you power or empower around that, right? Okay, well, hopefully Butana will speak to you later on. Apologies for that. I have no idea. Probably have a bad connection for the moment, okay? But we will talk about the goings-on and the latest developments regarding Stilfontein just now. Let's, however, talk about the African Innovation. Let me say that again. The African Innovation Academy, which is launched at the Langa High School. So I understand there's some significant developments there. Let's speak about all of that and more to Palesa Nangu, who's the African Innovation Solutions CEO. Palesa, you are now connected to the National Pulse. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. So I'm pretty excited with all things innovation because I know I often talk about this and we say to be a champion nation, you need to be absolutely innovative in all aspects of what you do. So with that in mind, I'm pretty excited about what you have to offer. Tell us about it.
Okay, Ashraf. So we African Innovation Solutions, but we've just launched the African Innovation Academy element of our entity. And we've got a program that we've launched for grade 9s to 12. The name of the program is going to be called iAccelerate SA. It's going to be a 4-month youth entrepreneurship accelerator program for South African high school students. Currently, we're going to start it in Cape Town. And yeah, we're launching this in partnership with iExperiment, which is a Romanian entity.
Okay, and tell me more about, so it's 4 schools, right, you said, and how will that play out?
Okay, so the program itself is going to be a 4-month program, as I mentioned. It's going to take place at a designated elite school in Cape Town. I'm not going to mention the name because we're still looking into the host school. So we're in the selections of that. And once we've selected a school, we're going to have the candidates that have applied. Actually, we've got an application online from our African Innovation Solutions website within the Academy tab for the students to start applying. It actually opened up today. And once we've gotten all the applications in next year, we're going to stop the application. They're going to then have a selection process of 30 students that are selected. And once those 30 students are selected, there'll be mentors allocated to the students, and there'll be facilitators as well. And the facilitators are actually going to run down through a 4-month program for the iAccelerate SA. And the mentors are going to be well-known individuals within the business industry, big names. We're talking about CEOs of companies such as Ozo, who was there at the launch. His name is Thomas Pays, and the likes of. And that program is going to help the students from the ideate, innovate, and just the entire aspect of launching an accelerator from as well. So it's going to be numerous startups from the students themselves, and we're talking about grade 9 to 12 years, so you can imagine it's quite intense.
So, and how important is that? I mean, getting students still at school to understand the importance of creating their own businesses, because I mean that's really what it is, but this is while they're still in school.
Correct. So the program itself aims to prepare the students for 21st century challenges, equipping them with entrepreneurial skills, problem-solving capabilities, leadership qualities, and the practical understanding of building sustainable ventures. So that's the program aim as well.
Okay. How has this been piloted elsewhere? Because what I'm interested in is seeing if this is done to these learners, what then happens to them next when you measure back maybe 3-4 years from now?
All right, so it has been, we're piloting this from a program called iExperiment from Romania. It was quite successful. The students then went on to be ambassadors of the program, which we intend to do as well. So African Innovation Academy has another element. I'm not going to dive into that right now, but it's going to have another program that takes on students after the grades of 12 and into the other, and where they will then take the accelerators and ventures and develop them further with proper funding and all that. But I'm not going to dive into that for now. We're just going to talk about the high school phase of it.
Okay, I'll leave that invitation open to you for some other time because it may just happen, right? Okay, in the meantime, what is the appetite amongst the learners? I mean, when you take this to certain schools, and I know Langa would be one of them, right? What's been the response up to now from the learners? Are they excited about it? Is there something that's being forced upon them and they don't even understand the value, but they will see the value later on? Or what?
So the students themselves were quite interested in the program. The response is actually quite good because of the mentors that were on stage on the day of the launch. So they saw themselves potentially building up something from the beginning, because we had mentors that had started from nothing and became something. So to them it was something relatable. Maybe in future they'd also, be them the next billionaires, millionaires, and let's just say employee creators of the country, and they envision that. And I think kids are, I would say, easy to motivate when they can see an example in front of them. So they reacted quite well to it, and they actually are keen on it because they kept on asking, so when is the application opening up? And yeah, I think on their side it's quite an interesting one.
And your thoughts in terms of the role of an entrepreneur, when we say, somebody is entrepreneurial or has got the gift of entrepreneurship, what exactly do we mean by that?
Please just repeat that. Sorry about that.
When we say, somebody is an entrepreneur or has the gift of entrepreneurship, right? How do we, what does that mean in practical terms? An entrepreneur or a successful entrepreneur does what?
Okay, so it varies from, it's got many elements, but in my perspective, it's someone who's got the skills to solve problems within a community, and those problems can vary for solutions such as they didn't have water and someone came up with a solution to make sure that the community itself had water. It can vary. There's bigger scales of it where just within the digital spaces, if people don't have the internet, and then you supply that. And if you're the person coming up with this initiative yourself, then you become the entrepreneur. You're the problem solver of, and you're leading the project itself. It's practical understanding of building sustainability, in my understanding.
Okay, building sustainability, and it's not just creating jobs is one impact of that, but I think building real growth in the country is another, and that's why entrepreneurship is that important. Palesa Nangu is the African Innovation Solutions CEO, talking to us about the launch of the African Innovation Academy's experiment program with in Cape Town, Langa, and to do with a collaboration with the team from Romania, if I hear that, around just innovation around entrepreneurship. All very exciting. Feel free to, by the way, connect with us. Just post some of your, maybe can you give us a very quickly, share a website, and maybe post, you can certainly share it on social media and tag us too, but give us a website if you can.
All right. A website would be African Innovation Solutions. You'd see it. The domain is innovation.africa. You can just go into our site. There's a tab for African Innovation Academy. The application is there. There's requirements on the application itself. And you can reach us on social media platforms as well. I'd specifically direct the individuals to African Innovation Solutions, but there is now also platforms for African Innovation Academy.
Okay.
And reach out, and we'll be open to discussing as well on our end to anyone interested in the program itself.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you so much. Lots to consider from that. Palesa Nangu, the African Innovation Solutions CEO. Thank you for connecting to the National Pulse.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Love a good murder mystery? Then Death in Paradise Season 3 will keep you entertained with a series of impossible murders on the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Marie. Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with Top Gear Season 25 and 26, Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime only on S3. Open up.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, I certainly get more of your opinions about a range of issues. Come on, answer this question. What for you moves the National Pulse today? And if I reflect on this entire week that's happened, what has been the biggest story that has moved the nation's thinking? And that's really what it is when we talk about the National Pulse. So you tell me, it has been less about the miners in Stilfontein, hasn't it, right? But let's see if we can get some of the callers. In fact, Takataya wants to talk about just that, illegal miners. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you. Go ahead.
Yes, Ashraf. Yeah, Ashraf, I am seeing something that is unfair. This afternoon, Mr. Mchunu, he is in Stilfontein. I think it's his second visit there. But you see, what I've noticed now, Ashraf, is the question that I asked for Mr. Mchunu, by the, I can say maybe the NGOs in that Stilfontein and maybe some of the union members. Imagine when Ashraf, you know, Mr. Mchunu is not a minister of labor, he's a minister of police. The only reason why he deployed the police there is because there were people who were raped, there were people who were killed in one of those illegal minings. Now, we heard yesterday there was also a case that is still pending, that these illegal miners, they need to be rescued by the government, fine, and they are trapped. Then the government is arguing that these people are not trapped there. They are there purposely because they want to enrich themselves. Now the people of Stilfontein, they said to Mr. Mchunu, Minister Mchunu, you know yourself that unemployment is high in South Africa. You're not supposed to say that the mine must be told something like that. I mean, Ashraf, this is not fair, Budi. This is not fair.
So how would you change that then? If you say that's not fair, what would you change?
No, when Ashraf, you cannot ask the Minister of Police whose job is to make sure that we are safe. Because like I said, people were killed, people were raped there. The deployment of police there is only for this reason. They want to make sure that whoever that is coming out of that mine is coming out safe. If it's there illegally, then the law is going to take its course. Now they are changing it now. They said unemployment is high, so that he wanted now the people to be allowed to dig mining.
Okay, got that. Well, I'll tell you what, let's see if somebody else has answers, but it's an issue we will certainly pick up as well next week, right? Sydney in Newlands, go for it. Hi.
Hello?
Yes, Sydney, you're live on the air.
Ashraf, I'm so glad to find you after so many years, man. You remember me, Uncle Sid from Bosmont.
I certainly do, okay. But you, yeah, okay.
We used to be on the Voice Radio.
A long, long time ago. Yes, go ahead. What do you want to say?
No, I want to complain about, I was attacked years ago, man, by my wife's family, and they damaged my eye. And I don't have witnesses except for the maid, and she's from Zimbabwe. She's been with us for over 10 years, and I'm beseeching her to be my witness. And let's take these people to court.
Well, I'm sorry what happened, but I mean, how can we help? What I'm trying to say in the context of, obviously, a legal case, what can we do? I'm just trying to understand you.
It's a criminal case. So I've got the case number and everything, but I don't have witnesses, and my wife doesn't want to be a witness because it's her family.
Okay, well, I mean,
I went to the local police station, and there was a Brigadier Crawford. She told me in Afrikaans, "Sit ons gaan jou help, maar ek word verplaas. Ek gaan uitwilling toe, maar die nuwe brigadier in Durban gaan jou help."
Okay, but I mean, you know what? If your own family don't turn up as witnesses, it's very complicated. I mean, I hear you, and I'm really sorry what happened, but I can't see us being able to do much more than what we've just done, which is allowed you to just say something, and maybe it'll convince someone to do something else.
Can I complain about my friend? You see?
No, I mean, I can't do more than I can't do more than that now. I mean, my apologies for that. I can't do more than that. I mean, that's as far as we can leave it. Okay, thank you for that. Let's get to other opinions. I asked you, what's your one word for that you would use to describe Black Friday? Just give me a word in terms of the emotional connection, whatever it is for you, right? Someone said strategic. I may tend to concur with you. What do you think?
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Hey, Mr. Ashraf, you and your listener there, please help me here, man. I don't know, man. Where do I get this idea of that? The Black Friday. It's on the 20. It's supposed to be on the 25th of November. The year that the 25 are on Friday only, not each and every year. That thing always on my mind, but I don't know where do I get that. Would you please help me there? Maybe you could know where do I get that thing.
Well, I mean, again, it's let's see if you know. Sometimes we have these requests to help. All I can hope for is you know, maybe from my production team, if they know the correct direction we can lead you to, that's fine. Maybe we'll just take your details, but I can't promise you anything. I mean, you must understand that, right? It's not a given. Let's see what comes out of it. Okay. Here's another one regarding Black Friday. One word to describe it. Here's one saying scam. I think that's from Tsepo. Always good if you leave your name, by the way. Leave your name so we understand exactly what it is that you are thinking. But there's more. There's more comments on that. And here's one about the party donation conversation we had earlier on.
Ashraf, imagine someone donating 190 million to your party, and your party wins elections. It is clear that when you become a president or your party win the elections, that person or those ones which donated that 190 million, they're going to dictate you what you must do, what you must not do. Hence we see ANC is doing what it's doing. There is someone who is dictating them. Skosana here.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, yeah, I mean, that is your party funding and the relationships is a big deal, isn't it, right? Here's another one on the ANC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. My name is Alphas Nogo in KwaZulu-Natal. I don't think it's going to be a good or a wise idea for the ANC to disband their PC in KZN, because they deployed their big wigs to the province before the elections and even hosted their manifesto rally at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. But still, people of KZN rejected them. So the PC should not be used as a scapegoat.
Okay. not be used as a scapegoat. There we are. Let's talk about immigration issues very quickly. One of them, ideally keep your voice notes around less than 30 seconds. It really helps, okay?
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Mr. Ashraf, why is this extension? Why can't they go to Zimbabwe and apply for a proper passport in their own country? Why should government be responsible for supplying with illegal documents? How did they come to South Africa? They must go back to Zimbabwe, apply for passport and come back. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, well, one of the reasons is that, in fact, the case has been declared illegal. That means the stopping of the exemptions in a high court in South Africa, just so that you know, right? Okay, let's get the news headlines. Here's Daneo Motaung.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 4:30. Gauteng has recorded a sharp increase in sexual offences in the second quarter of the 2024-25 financial year. In other news, some members of the Long Distance Taxi Association in KwaZulu-Natal are not operating today, leaving scores of commuters stranded. And the National Defence Force in Limpopo says they are aware of the plans of people involved in illegal border crossings and smuggling to try and counter the higher number of patrols by authorities over the festive season. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hoos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, there's heavy traffic on multiple routes throughout Crown, so expect delays. Heavy traffic in the CBD, Rietfontein Road in Boksburg is slow moving near East Rand Shopping Centre. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash before Allendale Road. In Pretoria, Eskampa-Hleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street. Lavender Road is slow moving at Wonderboom Junction Shopping Centre. The N1 southbound has a crash reported near the R21 highway, and Solomon Mhlangu Drive has heavy traffic at Silver Lakes. In KZN, the N3 westbound, a stationary truck after Camperdown exit. The N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound has a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, and Mgeni Road westbound queuing through Springfield Park. In Limpopo, the N1 northbound has crash recovery underway, one lane open before Bella Bella exit, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the R300 westbound is slow moving towards the M7 Jakes Hartwell Drive. The N1 outbound is queuing towards Yeptiaga Avenue. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the M5 northbound queuing towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Chumi, lots to talk about, but certainly cricket is your number one on the agenda, right?
Absolutely. South Africa and Sri Lanka on the go. Let me keep you up to date with the results. We're in the second innings and Sri Lanka are currently batting, sitting on 75 for 2. They currently need 441 runs to win. Meanwhile, Proteas men's all-rounder Vian Mulder has been ruled out of the remainder of the two-match test series due to a fractured right middle finger. The 26-year-old sustained the injury after being struck on the lower hand while batting during South Africa's first innings on day 2 of the first test in Durban. Subsequent x-rays revealed the extent of the injury, and Warriors batter Matthew Brietzke has been named as Mulder's replacement for the second test, which will take place at the St. George's Park in Gqeberha from the 5th to the 9th of December. In football, Cape Town City coach Eric Tenkler has reiterated the need for his squad to all get minutes on the pitch throughout the season. The Citizens' mentor argued this was crucial during the busiest period of the 2024-25 campaign, as well as when some of the key players suffer injuries. Now, Tinkler says that this has always been his approach.
The situation that we have is not realistic to think about in a big targets. The situation is think about as soon as possible one game, and will give the good momentum to continue. So, and that will come back. But even in the good situations, what we have been in the past in November, December, thinking and win the title was not much realistic. But of course, recover a big difference. A team like just lost one game that is in a really good form. They are so powerful in all departments, especially in the boxes. Will be difficult, but in the situation that we are, they lost a lot of games in a row, especially 3 in the Premier League, and so it's not always I think about the target when around in March, April. Where we are right now, okay, we are 1 or 2 months ago. Now is the moment to try to do it. By November, December, it doesn't matter what happened on Sunday. It will be more difficult if we don't take results, that's for sure. But still, there are many, many games to play.
Well, apologies about that. That is the voice of Pep Guardiola, who's revealing his desire to rebuild his City side, as he admitted the club cannot think about big targets while they seek to address their poor form. Guardiola has overseen a 6-match winless run in all competitions, marking his worst spell during his managerial career. Elsewhere, City's Rodri and Erling Haaland are the sole nominees from the Premier League in the Best Male Player category at the 2024 FIFA Best Awards. Now, the pair have been recognized after City became the first team in English top flight history to win 4 league titles in a row. Real Madrid and England midfielder Jude Bellingham is one of the 11 nominees for the prize, which is dominated by Spain-based players. Lionel Messi is the only player nominated for the award to play outside of Europe. And City boss Pep Guardiola is again nominated alongside Real Madrid's Carlo Ancelotti and Bayer Leverkusen's Xabi Alonso, amongst others. Then moving on to rugby, Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu will make his first appearance of the season for the Stormers in the URC derby against Sharks in Durban tomorrow. Having recovered from a knee injury, he picked up playing for the Springboks earlier this year. Feinberg Mgomezulu starts at fly half in the South African derby, which kicks off at 5 p.m. tomorrow at Kings Park. And he's partnered at halfback by the experienced Herschel Yankees and Steven Ungria and Manny Lebak, the backline cover on a 6-2 bench. Meanwhile, Springbok duo Willie Leroux and Kanan Moody were named in the Vodacom Bulls starting 15 for the clash against Connacht tomorrow. And finally, in tennis, 2-time Grand Slam champion Simona Halep has questioned the big difference in how tennis doping cases are handled after world number 2 Iga Swiatek received a 1-month ban. Now, the International Tennis Integrity Agency announced yesterday that Swiatek had accepted a 1-month suspension after testing positive for banned substance TMZ. Now, Halep was out of action for more than 18 months. This is following 2 separate anti-doping violations and has criticized the ITIA for having completely different approaches. And I think, Ashraf, with regards to this, for me, I think my first thought is what are the measures that they take in trying to figure out if you did it on purpose or not. So, and if when it comes to doping, should doping cases be taken as doping, whether you feel like you didn't do it or you did it on purpose or not? Because I read a book about doping, and the author was saying that athletes hardly ever admit when they do dope.
Well, I mean, it's not something I know too much about, by the way. Excepting, I mean, your point is interesting. You know, how do you determine whether they've done it on purpose or whether it's a complete mistake? And what's the percentage statistically of those people who take who use something that they shouldn't be taking completely in error? And I don't know. I mean, do you know much of the stats on that?
No, not really, but I do know that, I mean, it's hard to tell if someone was saying whatever that I was taking or whatever I put on my skin was contaminated. You don't know, who do you blame? Do you blame the coach? Do you blame the athlete? But I think at the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves, should doping be taken as doping? If we find that an athlete is doping, they need to be punished. Whether how long or not, I guess it's dependent on them. But I'm very interested in finding out how they find out if the athlete is telling the truth that they didn't do it on purpose or not.
Let me ask you, if it's not taken as doping, then what do you take it as?
No, it is taken as doping, but for me, when I say doping is doping, I'm trying to say if we find that an athlete somehow has tested positive for a banned substance, should we not take it as that rather than trying to find out if it was on purpose or not?
Well, I think I'd love to know what others think about it, but clearly the way it works is if what they've taken gives them an advantage, then that's where the problem arises. So it's not like they're taking something that harms them. Only it actually gives them an advantage over other athletes, and that's why they won't allow it. That's why people get banned for that reason. If it was not, if there were no advantages, there would be no reason to have this conversation. Yeah?
I guess so.
But I'd love to learn from others who know more than me about this. Okay, Tumi, you still there?
I'm still here.
Right. We will. Let's chat about it again. Some other issues on in an hour's time. All right. Perfect.
Ready.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Buccaneers believe this is their season to finish on the summit, but Stellies want to secure a permanent top 4 position. Gauteng battles it out with Western Cape. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Ipolala Mzansi. Orlando Pirates FC versus Stellenbosch FC on Sunday, 1st December. Live on SABC 1 at 3 p.m. and SABC radio stations at 3:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The SAFM playwriting competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Okay, we should join Makwe Masilela in just a moment or so, but let's before we do that, would you like to pick up on any of the issues that we've just raised? One is, again, the Good Friday, but just Good Friday, Black Friday, I must be very clear about that. Black Friday, one word that you would use to describe Black Friday, and you know, it's up to you what you think about it. But let's play some of the conversations that you've raised, and then the issue of doping, the issue of party political funding that we've discussed, and innovation among school learners around entrepreneurship.
Ashraf, just a thought on Black Friday. From a consumer's point of view, today really is about possibly getting a little bit more value for your money. One wonders how that value could be passed to non-profit or charitable organisations, and possibly an opportunity for corporate South Africa to step up. And any donations that are made by the public to these organisations today, possibly matched by corporate South Africa as well, and therefore kind of sharing the value not just for profitable or profit-making entities, but also for non-profit organizations.
Well, some may say they do that anyway. We just don't know about it. Yeah, but it's an interesting one. I think you're right on the one hand. If there's value for you in buying, what's wrong in that? If there's value for you, nobody's saying buy things you don't need. If you're buying anything you don't need, that's just wrong. Why would you do that? Okay? And if you're being convinced to buy, in fact, you're being tempted to spend every single day of your life. Forget just Black Friday. It happens every day. But if you're actually buying before that, then there's something wrong. All right, I think we've got, let's get to the markets now with Paswane. I think we do have him on the line. Paswane, good chatting to you. You want to pick up on local and global markets first, or developments, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, afternoon to all your listeners. Well, markets continue to experience strength trading like we saw yesterday, as global investors actually today are enjoying the Black Friday shopping spree. But nonetheless, money moved, and this is at the back of developments from the likes of geopolitical tensions, where reports came through that Israel and Hezbollah, who recently made a ceasefire deal, are actually exchanging accusations about breaching that ceasefire agreement. Higher, trading at $73. Further pressure from the fact that the Russia is actually warned the use of nuclear ballistic missiles on into Ukraine, they one of doing such an activity, and this also helps gold prices to climb higher on these developments, up 0.8% at $2,660 an ounce. Global yields also traded lower on these safety bets. On the economic front, developments where we saw that markets are increasing the probability of a 25 basis point cut from the US in December. This following the digestion of the economic data we saw this week. In Japan, we saw that the inflation was higher. Markets expect interest rates hikes to take place there. The yen rose at the back of these. Meanwhile, in Eurozone, inflation was recorded higher than the 2% target at 2.3% in the month of November. Equities are taking these developments with small changes, as because we're seeing a thin trading period. We see US indexes were trading up, slightly up, with the US and the Nasdaq and S&P up 0.1, Dow up 0.2. Europe FTSE was down 0.2, DAX was up 0.2. Our local bourse was flat to down 0.1. Gains were mainly out in the resource sector, up 0.6, thanks to the higher commodity pricing there and the expectation on China stimulus. Financials were down 0.5, industrials down 0.1. Looking into the currency market, Rand is at 18.06 against the dollar, Rand against the euro is at 19.05, and Rand against the pound 22.89.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. And we're going to chat on Monday. Well, tomorrow being, it's the weekend. So Monday it will be Paswane Mpatlele. Thank you for your time. Right. Let's get, in fact, I'll take further callers as well. And so we're chatting to Derek Hanekom after 5. He's part of the weekly Friday fireside chat that we have. Looking forward to that conversation. I hope you're going to join us on that one there, because, and it's very much a chilled conversation, but of course some serious issues get picked out as well. But I'm certainly looking forward to that conversation. In the meantime, if I asked you about issues that you'd like to raise, that you'd like to get off your chest, and especially first-time callers, young, old, male, female, especially, we certainly want you to call in and give your views about some of the biggest issues that concerns you, that's happened to you. Certainly let me know. And if you want to share just your experiences of Black Friday in terms of how you've internalized it, then I certainly want to know. Okay, we've got a caller from the Northwest. That's Vanolia, who wants to talk about Black Friday. Hi, Vanolia.
Hi, Asfa.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead.
Yes, you know what, Asfa? I think when I think about Black Friday, I really become mad after knowing what is Black Friday in fact. If many people can know about Black Friday, I think it is going to die. There will never be Black Friday anymore. Because when you remember Black Friday, it was that kind of apartheid where the black people were being sold to be, what can I call it, the slaves.
Yeah, I understand the origins of it all, and that's a whole long story in the USA. But in terms of now, the point is from a purely consumer, because that's what it's evolved into. Things do evolve. From a pure consumer point of view, it's a case of massive discounts to try and entice you to come and buy, and it's up to you to buy or not.
Unfortunately, our people doesn't know that. And when you go to the shops, sometimes you find that those things are not on sale, really.
No, but then you don't buy it. But if it's not on sale, why buy it?
They don't know. They think it is on sale. That's how they buy it.
Yeah, I see. Okay, got that. Well, I mean, really, if you see, you have to make price comparisons. If you know a bed that you've spotted will cost you 10,000 rands, for example, and they say everything on sale, and you go there and it's 10,000 rands, you're still going to buy it? No, you must know that is the same price as before. Buy something that will be considerably cheaper. Then you've actually scored on your Black Friday deals. If it doesn't, then don't do it. There's certainly more comment on Black Friday.
Ashraf, just a thought on Black Friday. From a consumer's point of view, today really is about possibly getting a little bit more value for your money. One wonders how that value could be passed to non-profit or charitable organizations, and possibly an opportunity for corporate South Africa to step up. And any donations that are made by the public to these organizations today, possibly matched by corporate South Africa as well, and therefore kind of sharing the value, not just for profitable or profit-making entities, but also for non-profit organizations.
Like that before, maybe double the impact, isn't it? I wonder what you think about that call about just bringing in NGOs to benefit from that. Is there anything else you want to raise? Here's one on temptation.
Oh, yes, sir. JJ and tax break. There's always temptations to buy, anytime, even when you don't have the money for it. But it is your choice. Nobody is forcing you to go and buy, whether it's on sale or what. It's up to you. You are your only protector. It's you whether you want to buy or you don't want to buy. Those who want to go and buy credit or what, well, it's going to be a problem, and it's their problem. It's their choice.
Well, I must say, I agree with you. I mean, ultimately, it's your decision. Like, we get bombarded every day about joining this, doing that, gym sessions, holidays, whatever. Not only Black Friday, it happens every single day. It's really up to you what you can do. Right, I'll get to another call. I think it's called Check, maybe. I hope I've got that right. We'll do that after this.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Get ready to honor Madiba's legacy together. Join us on 8 December at the Union Buildings in Tshwane, Gauteng, as we pay tribute to Nelson Mandela with the Mandela Remembrance Walk and Run. There's a distance for everyone: 21 kilometers, 10-kilometer run, and a 5-kilometer scenic walk. Enjoy loads of entertainment and plenty of fun for the kids. If you can't be there in person, you can participate from wherever you are, uniting with thousands around the country to honor Nelson Mandela's vision of unity, equality, and a just society. All proceeds will support the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Register now at mandelawalkandrun.com. Let's come together to remember Madiba. In proud partnership with Gauteng Province, the City of Tshwane, and SABC Sport. See you there. Let's make it a day to remember.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Anybody wants to comment about that change of leadership in Botswana? I certainly want to know. Check from Rudapur, you want to talk about carjackings? Go ahead, Check.
Yes. I want to talk about hijacking. I was once a victim of such. It was July, but what I've noticed is that, our police system is very, very poor. If they just know that we have a car insurance, then they don't concentrate much on the case. It took me 1.5 months with me calling the detective to find out how far are they with the case. And, Rhodopur, not Rhodopur specifically, Lenasia South, they will tell you that we will get back to you, and they never do. Even now, I'm WhatsApping them, the detective, but he never come back and respond to say how far they are, while the people are busy enjoying having my car with them. I'm shaking pieces as I'm speaking to you now.
Well, I'm so sorry about what happened to you again. I think it's the most horrific feeling in the world, and I really hope it doesn't happen to anybody listening, to any one of us, right? But it's happened to you, and I'm so sorry. But now you're saying, the follow-up has been poor. Just
yeah, the
crazy.
focus is poor of the detective side, because I find myself, before even they started calling, it's me who called them for more than 1.5 months. After 1.5 months, when I make a call to them, and now they start speaking to me. But even to know how far they with the case, it's me who's being the initiative of calling and finding out how far are you and all of that. Are you aware that they took my phone? Are you tracing anything about it? Nothing. Nothing. They just blue tick.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, that's just terrible. And the problem is, as I talk to you, there's probably 100 people who won't call in because they don't want to call in, but they're going to they'll give the same story. There's a sense of like, it's one of those things, and it's not one of those things. Absolutely.
And it's not,
Yeah.
you know, you want them to be found. That's it.
Absolutely.
It's no longer because of the traumatized. That's a real trauma that you go through. Because it's hijacked, including kidnapping at the same time.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry. I really am. Chuck, thanks for that call, okay? Thanks for calling in. Because, you know, when you do call in, you give us a sense of the national pulse. We then know what the people are thinking, and what people think makes up what we call the national pulse, because it's a reflection of a state of mind of an entire country. That's why it's that important. Salo in Limpopo, go ahead, hello.
Sure, man.
Salo, oh no, we've just lost you. Okay, do call back. I want to hear what you have to say about the new Prime Minister. Which country? Is that Botswana? Certainly want to know what you have to say about that. Right, we've had, here's a conversation about immigration.
Ashraf, good afternoon. This whole debate on foreigners is such a waste of time. I'll tell you why. So basically, you have to enforce the borders. And if you don't control your borders, I know Donald Trump's on about it all the time. The reality is we're just going to have admin all day, because people are just going to walk across the border, come and work here, get caught eventually, get sent back, more paperwork, more cost to the country, and sent back. There's no control of the borders. Unless we fix that, nothing will ever change. So we're wasting our money on the wrong side of what we're trying to do. We're trying to fix the problem after it happens. Doesn't make sense. Brad Marisburg.
Well, got that about no control of the borders. I think that's been well documented now from many of the political parties across the spectrum, that something's gone wrong in about 20, 30 years of democracy, where we just somehow allowed people to come in. And you can't do that for any country in the world, no matter how strong you may be on your human rights policies. So, having said that, that's happened. That's caused some problems, and there's lots of friction in the country because of that. They need to close those borders and not make them as porous as they are now. It means make it very difficult, but then allow people in based upon certain criteria. That's fine. Now, to go back to the original point with regard to the conversation about Zimbabwe, what we're dealing with now is a reality in this country, and you can't whisk that reality away. It's like you have to deal with that now, and that calls for a different sort of leadership, and I don't really know what it is. Not just them, because others, because I have said so before. I do think that whereas on the one hand a country cannot allow its country just to open, give the keys, open the door, literally open the door and say whoever wants to come here, come and do what you want. You just can't do that. On the flip side of that, you have to deal with it. If that happens, you have mass unemployment in the country, particularly around local people, and I can understand their frustrations, and I don't even fully understand it because I'm not one of those people who are unemployed, if you get my point, right? But beyond that, the issue of the diversity and the strength of diversity that foreign nationals gives you and helps build a country, I think is immense. But that does need to be handled properly. So lots of different things I've said there. Salo in Limpopo, go ahead, hi.
Ashraf, thanks for having me. Ashraf, look, yesterday you interview Advocate Ramacholi about the new position he was appointed.
Yes, well, that's the new Prime Minister you're talking about. Yes, okay, got that.
I think did we afford or we tried to get the Bapedi Kingdom's spokesperson or whoever who can speak about that. And then I just want to find out, how was the process handled? How did he become to be a chosen one to be the prime minister?
Well, I don't know. I mean, and that is why, you're right. So we spoke to him first because he's the new prime minister, right? On the other hand, so obviously we would speak to him as seniority over the spokesperson. Absolutely. In terms of the process, I don't quite know, excepting, different communities and regions, and let's call them kingdoms, if I want to call them that, and fiefdoms. They have their own way that they effectively determine who leads their country. Yeah.
That's my point, Ashraf, because in this kind of tradition and so forth, we really have to do due diligence. I think yesterday we could have even get hold of the Bapedi to say, guys, are you aware of this? But this is a big position, and then we.
No, but they must be aware of it. Are you suggesting they're not aware of it?
Are you aware that there is some conflict now in Bapedi? They don't know about, or they're not happy about.
Is that what you're saying? That there is a conflict?
That's what I'm saying. That
okay.
We need to let's just give two sides of the story, get hold of the tradition of Bapedi to find out how was the process done, and then why are they not happy about the appointment of the advocate. Let's just get that there, and maybe Monday give them the opportunity for that, and then we take it from there.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I tell you what, thanks for the call. So you see, on that point, yes, let me get Temba to follow that up and say, is there dissension within the ranks of that community? And let's see if that's the case, then how do we follow up that story? So, yeah. Okay, point made, and I'm glad that you've brought that up. Let's get the news. By the way, before we get to the news, Derek Hanekom, he's my guest after 5. Do not miss that for an hour. It's the 5 o'clock now, news with Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. A rise in sexual offences in Iwayala, reappointed as head of the WTO. Good day to you. Gauteng's recorded a sharp increase in sexual offences in the second quarter of the 2024-25 financial year. This emerged during the release of the provincial crime figures in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg. These offences include rape, sexual assault and domestic violence. It comes as the country is currently observing 16 days of activism against women and child abuse. The Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni.
Sexual offences and rape, which is a concern. When we outline our presentation in terms of crime statistics release, we have indicated some of the measures which we're trying to do. We really appeal to the community to work closely with us, because some of these crimes, they do happen indoors. And of course, when you see the driving force, you'll realize for the quota, we managed to keep in touch in terms of the activities of the program. Over 97,000 programs which were focused to the adults.
Some members of the Long Distance Taxi Association in KwaZulu-Natal are not operating today. This has left scores of taxi commuters stranded. Operators continue to claim that their licenses are not being issued quickly enough by the province's transport department. They're also demonstrating against the impounding of their vehicles. The associations in Kambangeni Nala.
Long distance taxi industry had called a meeting on the 27th where they decided that today they would stop operating, as they have been asking for their impounded vehicles to be released and for Chanela to stop until they get necessary permits. What bothers them is the fact that traffic police now have vehicles which they use to transport passengers.
Meanwhile, self-employed businesswoman Anele Luntwana, who runs a goods supply business, says she relies on taxis to transport her goods to customers in different provinces.
I came here to send goods to a customer in Joburg, but I was shocked to find that there are no taxis available. As a self-employed business owner, I rely on taxis to transport goods to customers in distant locations. This taxi strike has really hindered my operations, and I'm worried that I might lose customers as a result.
The National Defence Force in Limpopo says they are aware of plans by people involved in illegal border crossings and smuggling to try and counter the high number of patrols by authorities over the festive season. The Defence Force says it'll be looking to curb illicit border trade and smuggling at the Beitbridge border post and along the Limpopo River borderline. Defence Force spokesperson Shilangoma Makhaklane.
What they do, they check our movement because there are high grounds that they are using. So you would find that when we patrol to the east, then they can see our movement and they will try to pass on the west. So that is what mostly is a penny. So they can detect our movements, and that is where they are taking advantage of the situation.
The head of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has been reappointed for a second term, extending her tenure to 2029. It comes as a critical time for global trade, with the US President-elect Donald Trump threatening to impose new tariffs. The BBC's Jonathan Josephs has more.
The World Trade Organization oversees the rules which have allowed countries to significantly grow international trade. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala values the role this has had in pulling millions of people out of poverty and says she has unfinished business. This extension gives her more time to broker deals on e-commerce, foreign investment and fishing. The timing conveniently avoids a conflict with Donald Trump, who when last in office tried to block her appointment. But there is no getting away from the difficulties his threats of unilateral tariffs put on global trade.
Top story, Gauteng's recorded a sharp increase in sexual offences in the second quarter of the 2024-25 financial year. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Hoos.
Coming up in your sports this hour, 3 former cricketers arrested for match fixing. Banyana all set for their clash against Jamaica, and Stormers recall fit against Sasha. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg queuing towards Crown Interchange, the M1 northbound in Woodmead queuing towards Buccleuch Interchange, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview queuing on both routes towards Gilulis Interchange. In Midrand, the N1 southbound has a crash before Allendale Road, and the N1 northbound a crash after Allendale Road exit. In KZN, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck after Camperdown exit, the N3 westbound has a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley Interchange, Umgeni Road northbound is queuing towards Sandile Tuzi Road, and queuing traffic reported on multiple routes at Gateway Shopping Centre, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N7 northbound has a crash at Malibongwe Road, the N1 inbound has a crash after Brighton Road, 35th Avenue southbound in Moderdam is queuing towards Robert Sobukwe Road, and Albert Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
It's heating up on My Design Rules, South Africa's hottest interior design reality show, this Sunday evening at 7 on S3. Watch as our design duos get cooking on their kitchen spaces. It's the heart of the home, but with the stress of deadline hanging over their heads, it's causing nothing but high blood pressure. Channel your interior designer with My Design Rules, Sunday evenings at 7 only on S3.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so it's Friday afternoon, which means the last hour of the show. We don't talk about anything else, but what we do is we have a guest in, and we chat for about, mainly in studio. That's the norm, sometimes via online. We chat for about 45 minutes of the 1 hour. And we talk about all sorts of things. It's completely unscripted, if you can understand where a fireside chat goes, but it's certainly not linear in terms of like there's one big issue. No, I don't know where we're going to go. We'll talk about many, many things, right? So my guest today is Derek Hanekom. And Jerry, good chatting to you. And thanks for agreeing to be the fireside chat guest.
Hi, Ashraf. So am I to understand from you that anything goes here? You could ask me anything you like.
In fact, I can. I'll start with your tartan shirts, by the way, which looks very, very smart. I love the green and the red and the yellow and against the green curtain background, because, of course, you are online, and it looks very, very smart. So I'll start with that. Do you have this flair for bright colors?
Not particularly, but sometimes, depending on mood. But thanks for that. That's a nice opening shot. If you continue being nice to me, this is going to be a wonderful interview.
Well, I reminded you when I saw you the last time, 3 weeks ago at the Kathrada Foundation event, right, of which you are the chair, that I think we also previously met at the Wanderers Cricket Ground, which is very topical because South Africa on the front foot against Sri Lanka when we had a photo together with Quinton de Kock's dad, and at that stage Quinton de Kock was this rising star, but not quite there. But a lot has happened since then. I mean, he had the stellar career. So you never know the significance of photos with, if not him, certainly with his father, right? I mean, that's a while back.
That is a while back, but and what happened to Quinton after that is nothing short of extraordinary. His performances have just been shattering.
Absolutely. So, what is on your mind, like these days or today? What do you want to talk about?
Wow. Anything really, as you said, anything goes. What's on my mind? I am probably you might describe me as being semi-retired. I'm quite busy with SAA. I chair the board of the South African Airways, and it's giving me a lot of pleasure, I must say, because I work with a small team. It's a small board. It's described as an interim board. The minister or newly appointed Minister of Transport, to which SAA reports now, will be appointing a properly constituted board in the next few months. But for the moment, the team of 6 has really been a fantastic team. I've enjoyed working with them, but mainly we've seen real progress with SAA. So that's given me a tremendous amount of satisfaction. I enjoy the work with the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. They're just the most wonderful people who work in that organization, doing really good things. So those are my work things. But outside of work, I'm enjoying the so much more free time that I have at the moment. And I mean, you're going to ask me questions about what books have I read, etc. But
yeah, we'll certainly do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm reading novels and biographies, watching Netflix, walking an awful lot, a little bit of swimming. I do my little household chores, which I enjoy doing. And so altogether, I'm in quite a relaxed frame of mind. Looking forward to.
I take it that you can afford retirement, right? Because many people in the country, in the world, in fact, they can't afford to retire.
Yeah, and I don't take that for granted. I mean, it's over having been in Parliament for 25 years, I had a pension fund on which we can live. So I don't really depend on other forms of income. I don't, if I'm given remunerated work, then I do it, but I don't depend on it. So I don't take that for granted at all. It puts us in a very privileged position, and I really feel for many others who, hit retirement age and they don't have sufficient savings, they don't have pension funds to draw on, and it's tough. It's really tough.
Now, I mean, if I had to introduce you in terms of the buy, I would have said chairperson of the SAA board. I would have mentioned chairperson of the Kathrada Foundation, and I would have said, yes, former MP, former Minister of Transport, I think was probably the last major assignment you had. And I would have said, someone who stood against the grain.
Minister of
Tourism. Did I say transport? Well, tourism, yeah. And I would have said someone that often stood against the grain within his political party, the African National Congress. Have I missed something there in terms of key bullet points?
No, you haven't missed anything. I mean, it sort of touches a few chords. I suppose I'm reading a book, moving on to books, but we don't have to move right there. Mm-hmm. But right now, I just finished reading actually Karen Moon's book entitled "I Will Not Be Silenced."
Yeah.
And I found it very moving, very inspiring, and I think that in the same way, I refuse to be silenced and bullied by people. If something is wrong, I don't talk for the sake of it, Ashraf. I don't criticize or just because I enjoy criticizing people. But I think when there are issues to be raised, it's just my personality. I don't really hold back. I try to speak my mind. And I do it, in order that issues be addressed, not just so that I feel satisfied that I've spoken. But, it's just part of my makeup, I guess.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So, I mean, I actually interviewed Karen Moon a week or two ago. Fascinating book. You're absolutely correct about that. And then your part about I will not be silenced. Maybe share the one or two moments where you were faced with this I will not be silenced when the norm would be like, come on, man. It's difficult. Just look away. And how did you, on a very personal level, respond to that?
So, okay. I mean, we've, Trish is my wife, and Trish and I have been active in the ANC for a very long time. We joined when we were in our 20s. We formally joined the ANC as an underground party. We spent our time in prison. We spent our bit of time in exile. And, it's really been part of our lives. So clearly, I mean, I would not be alone in saying that, some of the things that have happened over the last decade and more, the last 15 years or so, the revelations and some of the things under the ANC's leadership that have happened to our country have been deeply disturbing. That doesn't mean that they aren't, that they weren't throughout, and still are excellent people, very good people, very committed to wanting to make the change and make South Africa work for everyone and make South Africa a better place for everyone. And I think it's these people that are part of the ANC that have kept us in the ANC. But it's mostly the struggles within the party that have been difficult, and there have been many of them. Going right back to the time when I was chairing the National Disciplinary Committee, perhaps the highest profile case that I had to deal with was the case of Julius Malema, and it was more than one case, and then ultimately it led to his expulsion. And clearly, there was a lot of anger around that, but, we had to do the right thing, and that was the right thing to do at the time. The matter was actually, interestingly, the appeal at that time went to Cyril Ramaphosa, who was chairing the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals. And then the appeal committee upheld our decision of expulsion. But that's a longer story. I think the most difficult thing, Ashraf, was in the NEC itself. There were a number of us that were taking issue with the way the then president was conducting himself. And we felt quite strongly that he had to stand down, he had to resign as president of the country. He was the elected president of the ANC. We weren't saying that he should resign as the ANC, but we felt that, the country deserved better, and the country was in trouble, and was in trouble because of the things that he was doing largely. And to confront him directly at NEC meetings was not an easy thing to do, especially at the time when we were not getting majority support. There was a number of us who were taking the stand at the NEC, but we failed, and then we concentrated our efforts in changing things at the National Conference of the ANC, and ultimately, well, the rest is history. At that ANC conference, Cyril Ramaphosa was elected, and in the first meeting after the conference, the National Working Committee of the ANC asked Jacob Zuma to resign, to step down as the president of the country. But these were hard battles, these, because and with very important battles. And I think one should say that, because without it, where would this country have been? Where could this country be today? I think what's happened over the last 10 years or so, less actually, but since that conference and since Cyril Ramaphosa became the president, there have been disappointments. Not everything has gone the way one would like it to go, but where the country is today and where it was then, it's a completely different space. In a completely different
and you feel it's in a better space. Let me pick out a couple of things from there, then we need to move on, right? On the Malema issue, right? Without getting into the detail, because that's not the purpose of this conversation, right? With hindsight, a Malema within the ANC now would have been better for the ANC, or do you still think, as was then agreed at the time, they needed to be expelled, would be better?
Well, I mean, all one can do is look at the, and I don't want to use this platform to launch any kind of personal attack on Julius Malema or anyone else, but, we can just see how the party that they then established, how they've conducted themselves over the last few years, how they've, destroyed the image of Parliament, became a disruptive force in Parliament. And I can speak about many other things that have happened, in the party that was then led by Julius Malema. And so I can say it was a good thing for the ANC that Julius Malema left at the time, and a very good thing for the ANC in particular, that we were able to deal with the real problem, and that is the former president Jacob Zuma and what he was doing to destroy our country. I mean, Julius Malema may have been an irritation. He may have, upset a lot of people. May have said things that were inappropriate. But he wasn't the real damager. The real damager was Jacob Zuma.
And those that support Zuma now, as per the MK party, is almost this great reformer, a great savior of South Africa now. How do you feel about it when you hear that, and you hear the growing support for them?
Well, I can't. I mean, it's difficult to take seriously. I mean, we know that the loudest voices in support of Jacob Zuma are people who are faced with criminal charges themselves, facing criminal charges. So it's all about their own self-interest. Just watch the space. Sooner or later, it'll disintegrate. It's a kind of a party without any clear leadership, a party of people with big egos. And I should say something, by the way, the votes that the party got, which is something that, you know, one can't prove necessarily, but the unexpectedly high level of support that the party got in the May elections was partly a result of a kind of a manipulation that was happening in KwaZulu-Natal. Many voters, they were quite openly told, you know, you're voting for the ANC. When you vote for the MK party, you're voting for the ANC, but you're voting for the Zuma ANC, not the Ramaphosa ANC. And, you know, the race card was played, the ethnicity card was played, and many voters genuinely thought they were voting for a different part of the ANC,
Okay.
but
So
still voting for
you
the
think
ANC.
you think that's what really happened? That they put the X on the wrong in the wrong
quite
column?
sure that was happening.
Okay.
I'm quite sure that was happening.
All right, we need to have another conversation about that. Just on the part about the Zuma part, in terms of your role being upfront with him, as you've mentioned, right? Am I right that, and I use the word tourism incorrect, transport incorrectly, with regard to tourism, that very soon thereafter you lost your post as Minister of Tourism? I mean, that was linked to your...
Sorry, I've just lost you, Ashraf.
That you lost your position as the Minister of Tourism very, very shortly after you became very outspoken against the then president, right? I mean, that's true, right? Did you hear that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been privileged to occupy a number of exciting portfolios, and I'll get to tourism in a second. I mean, right in the beginning, in the first term, I started off as the Minister of Land Affairs, and then I had agriculture join, and I had a passion for, you know, agriculture, having farmed a little bit myself earlier in life, but also the challenge of doing land reform in South Africa. It was a massive challenge. Then I became first a deputy minister of science and technology. I worked with ministers that I really enjoyed working with, including Naledi Pandor and others. And then I became the Minister of Science and Technology, and then I became the Minister of Tourism. And science and technology I really enjoyed. It was stimulating. We did wonderful things, including, you know, successfully getting the bid for the square kilometer array. And, you know, we have incredible researchers and scientists in our country, and it's not fully recognized. Yeah. Then I moved into the tourism portfolio, and I loved it. Really spoke to my personality, I guess. I could see the economic value in tourism. I enjoyed travel. I enjoyed the people that I was working with in tourism. Yes, I started off as the minister. Then I was dropped on the same day that Pravin Gordhan was dropped. I was also dropped by the then President Zuma. And then when Cyril Ramaphosa became the president, he brought us back into
So the day that you were dropped, and this is more of a personal question. I mean, how did you feel about that? Because you know why you were dropped. That is pretty obvious, right? But how did you feel about that? And what the implications would be that, you know, for yourself, for your family, for your, if I can call it, for your career?
Nothing. It was just a matter of time. It was, you know, it happened, and it was a matter of time. It was going to happen. You know, when you openly, you know, stand up and say, Jacob Zuma, and I probably initiated the campaign, who was certainly in the forefront of the campaign for him to go. You don't expect him as the president of the country to hold on to you for much longer after that. So it was no great shock, put it that way. So, you know, just one thing that I've always been quite firm on the principle that if you're a member of parliament, that's the only thing that you actually stood for. You stood for, during elections, I stood for and others stand for Parliament. You're on a parliamentary list, you get elected, you're in Parliament, and then becoming a minister or being, invited to serve on cabinet is a bonus. Not something you can just assume happens. And if when I was dropped from as minister, I continued being a backbencher in Parliament because that's what one should do. You don't throw your toys out of the cot. And those are some of the life lessons I've learned, I suppose, is if you're going to be bold, you must take whatever comes with it. I've been immensely privileged in doing the interesting and stimulating and rewarding things that I've been able to do. But you take your blows and you don't go into a sulk.
Okay.
You just have to take your blows, pick up the pieces and carry on.
So therefore, let's go back to where it all started for me. I mean, you mentioned your wife. I've had the privilege of meeting Tricia as well on many occasions, in fact. But where did it all start? And not just start, but the very important one in this context, like what sparked off this career, if I can call it that, of serving the people?
Well, very interesting. You go right back. We got married in 1981, but we were together since 1977, and we really connected in struggle. And it was a very tense period in South Africa in 1977. A number of people were detained, organizations were banned, and we participated in a peaceful demonstration outside John Foster Square together. Trish and I, with a number of other people, and we were all arrested. And I was I was about 24 or so. Then I was sort of picked out from the 44 people who were arrested together, and I was assaulted in the police cell. And Trish and I, at that point, we felt peaceful protest is very important. And mass protest is very, very important, but we felt that on its own, it was not going to bring us the freedom that we were yearning for, and that we felt that the armed struggle, the underground struggle was absolutely necessary. And we decided then, in 1978, that we were going to join the ANC, which was not something we could share with other people. It was a big decision for us to take. And then it was just a matter of time before we formally joined the underground component of the African National Congress.
And was that known by your family then? You said you couldn't share it. I mean, was that known by how many family members knew that at the time?
No, well, I mean, so the people who knew, there were some people that suspected. I don't mean the security police. I mean people who were close to us. They suspected that we were doing underground work. And of course, we approached some people, including a good friend called Roland Hunter, who was arrested with us. He was doing his military service at the time. And we were farming at the time in Magaliesburg. We were arrested in Magaliesburg with Roland Hunter. He was working in a very sensitive operation in the then South African Defence Force, who was supporting the rebels, rebel group Renamo and other rebel groups in Southern Africa. But in particular, he was connecting with in his job, he let us know exactly where the training sites were, the training camps for the Renamo rebels. And ultimately, without going into the long story, it's a story on its own, it led to our arrest. And that was the first time that certainly our parents had no inkling that we're doing this kind of work.
What did they tell you? I mean, you've been arrested for what?
Well, it was tough for them. It always is for parents, and I suppose in the kind of racially divided society, I mean, I think in a situation where black people are from a very early age are fighting for justice, and it's part of the family fight, and there's no shock or surprise. In the white community, it was then anyway a little bit different. Certainly something that our parents were not at all aware of what the ANC was and what it stood for, and were vaguely aware of Nelson Mandela being in jail, but all of this was quite foreign to them. And then, of course, in white society, I suppose, but you would be regarded as a traitor, But fortunately, our close network of friends were like-minded people. So we didn't have, we weren't like, we didn't find ourselves isolated from the social circles we were in, not at all.
Okay, well, so yeah, you don't have a friend saying I'm not your friend anymore because, yeah, I get that. Well, I'll tell you what, we're chatting to Derek Hanekom, currently the chair of the board of SAA. He's also the chairperson of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, and of course, as you know, history within the ANC and has held many cabinet positions as well. Now, as always, in the fireside chat, we've probably got time for maybe 3 engagements. So, whether you want to call in or WhatsApp, probably 3 is the max I can take. If you want to say hi, particularly if you know him, that's fabulous. You can do that right away. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, text, or voice note 0614 104 107, or you can also post on the social media pages. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 5:30. Here's Greg House.
This half hour, the police ministers acknowledged that Operation Vala Mgodi against illegal mining has had serious shortcomings as it didn't consider the socio-economic challenges in communities. Gauteng's reported a sharp increase in sexual offences in the second quarter of the 2024-25 financial year, and dozens of pro-Palestine supporters have embarked on a protest outside the US Embassy in Sandton, north of Johannesburg. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R24 eastbound in Kempton Park is a crash reported near the R21 airport interchange. Rietfontein Road in Boksburg is slow-moving near East Rand Shopping Centre. In Pretoria, Lavender Road is slow-moving at Wonderboom Junction Shopping Centre, and Solomon Mhlangu Drive westbound has a crash reported near Olympus Drive. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a crash near the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck after Camperdown exit. The N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Mgeni Road northbound queuing towards Sandile Tuzi Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is queuing towards the N2 highway. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N7 northbound has a crash at Malibongwe Road, and the N1 inbound has a crash after Brighton Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkgapele.
Right, Chumi, let's talk sport. In fact, let's talk about, let's call it the business of sport, isn't it? For all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, all for the long reasons. Well, the Hawks have arrested 3 former South African cricket players implicated in a match-fixing scheme during the 2015-2016 domestic T20 Ram Slam Challenge. The trio, Ethi Mbalati and Tamiso Lekile and Lonwabo Tsotobe, were arrested on the 18th of November, 28th and 29th of November, respectively. Now, Mbalati has since appeared in the Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crimes Court, and the matter was postponed to the 20th of February next year for further instructions, while Zorekile and Tsotobe were both charged with 5 counts of corruption under Section 15 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with this developing story. Meanwhile, Proteas men's all-rounder Vian Mulder has been ruled out of the remainder of the 2-match test series against Sri Lanka due to a fractured right middle finger. The 26-year-old sustained the injury after being struck on the lower hand while batting during South Africa's first innings on day 2 of the first test in Durban. Subsequent x-rays revealed the extent of the injury, and Warriors batter Matthew Brieske has been named as Mulder's replacement for the second test, which will take place at the St. George's Park in Gqeberha from the 5th to the 9th of December. Just to keep you up to date with what is happening down in Durban, Sri Lanka currently sitting on 103 for 5 in the second innings. Remember that South Africa posted 366 in their second innings, and Sri Lanka need 413 runs to win. Will they be able to do it? Only time will tell. In football, Banyana midfielder Bonge Kakamete believes once they conquer the Heat in Monte Montego Bay, they should be able to do well against Jamaica. Now, the two nations clash on Saturday morning in the first of the two international friendly matches to conclude the year for the South Africans. Gamede recently moved to a very cold and sometimes snowy Denmark. Now, the match will be played at Catherine Hall Sports Complex in Montego Bay, and the time of kickoff is 3 a.m. South African time.
The last time I watched them play was last year in the World Cup, and they did very well. But I mean, we can't compare how they played last year to this year, because each and every team, I know they improve, because we know we improve as well. So it's going to be a difficult game, but I think we got this one under control. We have to manage the game very well, especially since it's hot. Where I'm from, it's currently winter, so it's going to be very difficult to play under these conditions. But I think everyone else who's from South Africa, they're kind of familiar, especially the ones that stay in Joburg, they're kind of familiar with the weather. It's just the different temperatures there and there. But I think drinking a lot of water and staying hydrated all the time is going to help us during the game.
In motorsport, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc clocked the quickest time in practice one for the Qatar Grand Prix ahead of McLaren duo Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Ferrari trailed McLaren by 24 points in the standings with 2 events to go and made a strong start at the Lusail International Circuit. In rugby, Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu will make his first appearance of the season for the Stormers in the URC Derby against the Sharks in Durban tomorrow. Having recovered from a knee injury he picked up playing from the Springboks earlier this year, Feinberg Mgomezulu starts at fly half in the South African Derby, which kicks off at 5 p.m. tomorrow at Kings Park. He is partnered at fly half by the experienced Herschel Yankees as Stephen Ungria and Manny Lebok, the backline cover, on a 6-2 bench. Meanwhile, Springbok duo Willie Leroux and Kenan Moody were named in the Vodacom Bulls starting 15 for their clash against Connacht tomorrow. Then finally in tennis, two-time Grand Slam champion Simona Halep has questioned the big difference in how tennis doping cases are handled after world number 2 Iga Swiatek received a 1-month ban. The International Tennis Integrity Agency announced yesterday that Swiatek has accepted a 1-month suspension after testing positive for banned substance TMZ. Now, Halep, who was out of action for more than 18 months following 2 separate anti-doping violations, has criticized the ITIA for having completely different approaches. Well, with that said, it is a wrap from my side.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. Right, so look forward to the weekend, whatever it is you're up to. I know you're going to watch sport and maybe work as well, but then it's Monday and we'll talk then. Right, let's get on to business next.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
It'll be a hot affair between the Proteas and the English this summer. Who are the real queens of T20 cricket? Protea Fire meets England at Willowmore Park. What a summer without cricket! This is the third and final Women's T20 international match, where summer cricket comes alive. South Africa versus England on Saturday 30 November at 6 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus, proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Moya hosts the SFM Market Update. No market update on a Friday, as in 6 to 7, but it doesn't mean the markets haven't been moving so far today. Jimmy, what's moving markets? Jimmy, you there?
Yeah!
Mo Salah.
Jimmy, you there? Okay, we'll try and connect with Jimmy in just a moment. I just want to see if we can. I think we can do that. By the way, Derek Hanekom coming up once again as the fireside chat as we continue talking to him. Jimmy, you're there now, right?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I certainly can. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Good afternoon to you and to the listeners. The week is starting out a bit weird. I don't really know how I feel about it, but if we have a look at the markets that were trading, we know that some markets would have been trading in the green today. Asian markets were a bit of a mixed bag, with the Nikkei and the ASX down, but Hong Kong and Shanghai in the green. If we look at European markets, they were also a bit of a mixed bunch there, with the FTSE down 1/3%, but the DAX up 1/3%. And if we look at U.S. markets, they're trading all in the green at the moment, but they are trading lighter today because, of course, yesterday was Thanksgiving. Today is a half day of trade. So U.S. markets will close early today. But if we look at our own markets, they didn't fare so well. We had a very bearish day. All our markets, with the exception of our resources index, were in the red. Resources was the only index up about 1/3%. Interestingly enough, the is closing the week out about 1.4% in the red. The rand is holding its ground against the US dollar, but not against the other major currencies. It's at 19 rand and 6 cents against the euro. It's down about 0.75% for the week, and it's exactly flat against the US dollar, which is a very interesting sign. It's seldom that we see the rand holding its ground against the dollar like that. But again, with the dollar having less trading days this week, that could be a factor there as well. We'll keep an eye on that going into next week, because we definitely want to see if we can break below that 18 rand level again. What we're also looking at is if we can see platinum and palladium pricing coming back above $1,000 an ounce. They're both still below $1,000 an ounce, but thankfully Brent crude is holding around that $73 a barrel level, and the gold price is back at $2,650 odd an ounce. It's just about 0.5% or just under 0.5% in the green. So we're going to close out the week in a bit of a mixed space. This is the final week of November, so going into the festive period, going into December. Next week, we expect a bit of a Santa rally, sort of the first 2 weeks of the markets, and then markets might die down. But we'll catch up next week to see how we're going to close out the year. We're dangerously close to $100,000 on Bitcoin. We're back at $98,000 a Bitcoin there, so we're going to see if we can get to 100,000 before the new year. For now, we'll leave the markets there, and we'll catch up next week.
Absolutely, we do that. You have a great weekend, Jimmy. We will certainly connect markets and all the numbers coming up from Monday.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The Bees are constantly seeking for a suitable way to move up to the top half. They want to triumph against Leicester City FC.
Visser is in here for Brentford. Johan Visser!
While the Foxes are committed to playing attractive football for 90 minutes as they also eye a top half spot.
Ayew into Vardy, back to Ayew, scores! Leicester have done it late on the road! Jordan Ayew sweeps home! What a move!
This is the Premier League. Catch the spectacular clash between Brentford FC and Leicester City FC on Saturday, 30 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, chatting to Derek Hanekom. We'll do that up to 6 o'clock as part of the Friday Fireside Chat. We do this every Friday. Remember that, right? We'll have another great guest next week, of course, too. Right, let's take a couple of calls and WhatsApp, short and sharp if you come on, please, because there's not much time for more than that. I'd love to do more, but I don't. Steve in the Northern Cape, go ahead. Hi.
Yeah, good day, Azaf. How are you?
I'm good indeed, Steve. Go ahead. What's your point?
Yes, no. I would like to say hi to Uncle Derek. We call him Uncle Derek in the African Israel Congress. for the very progressive role that he has played in the African National Congress as well as society in general. The reason why I specifically called him is because I know the role he has played in our politics in the Northern Cape during the time of the former president who has now established his own party, which is the MK Party.
I'm going to push right. I need you to be very, very quick. Please, I'm sorry. You just need to be very quick on this one because we just don't have much time. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. No, what I want to say, he must continue with the progressive work that he has been doing for this period in time, and then he can be described as the architect of the project for renewal. We need people like himself. Yeah.
Okay, nice call, architect for the renewal project within, in this case, the African National Congress. Let me do this. Let me play two more voice notes, and then we'll get Derek Hanekom to comment. So here's one. Let's see if I can do that first. Okay, here we are.
Hello, Brother Ashraf. I'm Sydney Dilo in Akonok Pushpak Ridge. I'm saying thanks 1,000 times to Derek Hanekom, Sir Derek Hanekom, for joining the struggles of your fellow South Africans who were treated as semi-human beings simply because they were black Africans and you were a white who had some privileges, but you realize this cannot go on. Thanks 1,000 times.
Okay, lovely caller. Here's the last one I can take for now.
Hi, Ashraf. Please ask Mr. Hanekom what he thinks of Donald Trump, the Lebanese ceasefire, and what is happening in the Middle East, and where does he see this going?
Okay, there's like 3 or 4 in one go. Let's do that very, very quickly. Derek, you've heard some of those things. First of all, I mean, there's just good compliments about you being the architect of the great renewal, right?
Thank you much to Steve for those lovely words. I think the Northern Cape, Steve is absolutely does, and I continue to be in touch with them, and I think doing a very good job in the province. The name of your second caller, but I just want to say thank you very much. I think when one does encounter and get a lot of criticism and insults hurled at you when you do things that obviously annoy a lot of people, and more than annoy, I guess. And it is nice to get acknowledgement and appreciation for one's efforts. So thank you very much for that. On the third point, Ashraf, well, you know, I'm not really in a position to comment on Donald Trump, but I suppose I can say that it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary that the majority of voting Americans voted for somebody like Donald Trump, and I think we're still a little bit shell-shocked. And clearly it's not the outcome that I was hoping for, but at the same time, you know, it's the reality. I think the president has just appointed an excellent ambassador to Washington, and you know, I think America is just too important a country for us, for our economy, and obviously many other countries to ignore. We have to work with the U.S. government, and in particular, you'd be aware of the negotiations around AGOA, the trade deal, the tariff concessions that would come with it, and that's very important for our economy. So we hope that certainly that the relationship is maintained, but there are serious political differences between ourselves, or many progressive people in South Africa, and the Trump administration, and there's real reason for concern. When it comes to the Middle East, I think the jury is out. We don't know whether the Trump administration is going to be fundamentally different from the Biden administration, but you know, it's not that the Biden administration gave us anything to celebrate when it comes to supporting the struggles of the Palestinian people. In fact, without U.S. support, this war could never have been, these atrocities could never have been committed. They've been committed with the full support of the U.S. government, being armed by the U.S. government, and the U.S. government is clearly in the strongest position to put pressure on Israel and the Israeli government, but they won't.
Okay.
And so, from my position, I continue supporting the struggle of the Palestinian people, which didn't start on the 7th of October, which goes back 100 years or more. And by the way, Ashraf, that is one of the books that I'm reading at the moment, and that is the sort of 100 years of Palestinian struggle. Because we need to put it in context. At the moment it's projected as if it all started a little while ago, but the systematic dispossession of Palestinian people started a long, long time ago.
Okay.
So, let me end there on that. But,
all right. So the book,
the
100 Years of Palestinian Struggle, written and so share, written by who, and give me 2 other books that you'd suggest we should be reading.
Oh, well, okay. So, I read, I sort of flip around from biographies to novels. I love reading novels, probably read more novels than biographies. I just don't have the author in front of me of the 100 Years of Palestinian Struggle.
Get that, yeah.
Okay, so, but as I said, I've just finished reading the book by Karen Moore. They're just such remarkable books. One is Amanda Ngozi Adichie, wonderful writer. Purple Hibiscus. There's some time ago. Purple Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun. There's these are books that I think everyone should read. What can I say? More recently, I'm reading all the time. It becomes a bit of a
okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe tweet some of those. Tweet some of those.
Okay.
And on Twitter.
Love Isabel Allende's books. All of her books. There's somebody called Margaret Atwood. Strongly recommend, called Alias Grace. I strongly recommend reading that. The book on Israel, on Palestine, by the way, is called The 100 Years War on Palestine.
Oh, okay. The 100 Years More on Palestine. Got that. Okay, we'll certainly check it out. But I mean, feel free to tweet even all those books listed just now. Just tag SAFM Radio and myself. I'll gladly share that. Let's. We got about 9 minutes to go. Let's move on to other things very quickly. I always ask this of people. I mean, we know you, but here's a chance for you to give a shout out to a young South African of any persuasion, whatever it is, that you are so impressed by that you'd like to give that shout out so we all know about it. Him, her, whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm lucky enough to be in touch with some really inspirational, energetic young people through the work of the Ahmad Kathrada Foundation. And there's one young man who really stands out as a man of enormous talent, enormous integrity, and you just have to watch. He's young. His name is Rikhotso, or people call him Khotsi Chikane. He's Frank Chikane's son.
Okay.
But
right.
I think he's a leader, an intellectual leader in his own right, and I think, watch the space. He's just such an impressive young man. There is the director of the Defend Our Democracy movement organization is somebody called Sakira Vadi.
Yeah, that's Ishmael's daughter, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's Ishmael's daughter. I think she's wonderful. Great friend that Ishmael is, but Sakira just beats him hands down. And then there's a member of parliament, a young ANC member of parliament, who I think is really impressive, and I'm watching her grow and develop, and I think you know her, Ashraf, Fasia Hassan.
Yeah, that's my relative. Yeah, that's my cousin. That's my cousin's daughter, of course. Yeah.
Okay, now you've just risen in my esteem, a whole number of notches. She really is a very talented young woman. But I must say, I mean, with all of the difficulties and challenges South Africa has, we've got amazing young people that we couldn't, when we were young, we couldn't possibly compare with their levels of confidence, their intellects, their dynamism. It's a generation of people that we should be worried, about the people who just don't make it, who just don't get a decent education, and are sort of disillusioned and, just are on the fringes of society. But the other side of the story is the most incredibly inspiring young people that augurs well for the future of our country.
And you just made that point, absolutely. Is there someone, however, outside the young people you've mentioned, and in fact, even Frank Chikani's son, I mean, he's written a fabulous book that I interviewed him about probably 5-6 years ago. I remember that now, right? A very colorful cover, if I can recollect. But anyway, regarding you, is there someone that you'd like to share a seat at the table with? I mean, you haven't had that opportunity. You've met lots of people in your life, but you haven't had this engagement with that person. Who would that be?
Well, in anticipating the question, I mean, there are many people who aren't with us anymore that you just would like to spend, that time that you weren't able to spend with them while they were alive to be able to do that now. But I'll focus on people who are still alive. Somebody whom I hold in the highest regard is somebody called Trevor Manuel. You may know the name.
Yes, I do.
And Maria Ramos. Yeah. They become good friends. Each other quite a lot. So I don't desire to sit next to him at a table because we do anyway. So I'll speak about somebody that, just a name of somebody that just strikes me. Apart from, by the way, these great writers that write these fabulous novels, I just stand so in awe of them. So any one of them, I would love to sit down and just get a sense of who they are in real life.
But hopefully that'll come. Yeah, hopefully. All right. Did you want to say something else?
No, but I'm going to mention a particular name.
Okay.
And that's related to movies. We watch a lot of Netflix. We watch a lot of movies at home. Mostly, we don't go to the cinema that often. But there's a movie that we saw a couple of years ago called A 12-Year Night. And that is, somebody who spent 12 years in prison in Uruguay. Mm-hmm. And the person name was El Pepe, he was known as, and his name is Jose Mujica. And he became, he spent his 12 years, extraordinarily tough years in prison. He came out and he became the president of Uruguay. From 2010 to 2025, he served as president of Uruguay. He gave 90% of his salary he gave away to charities. Okay, incredible. He drove a Volkswagen Beetle. He's still alive. He's 89 years old now. He's living with his wife on a farm. That little Volkswagen of his, it's a collector's item. He was offered $1 million for it, and he said, well, I would just give the money to charity anyway. So if, while he is still alive, I would love to just have the privilege of meeting.
We need to connect you guys. I wish it would happen. Right, 3 minutes to go for the fireside chat. Even now well, I'm going to say advanced age, but I have to say relative advanced age compared to this young boy who became the activist, right? What for you is your purpose? I mean, just a short answer. What's your purpose?
My purpose. That's a very esoteric question. I think that, from day to day, I try, and I mostly fail, of course, but I try to live the life that I lead. I try to live it well. I try to make a difference where I can, in the places where I am either employed or in my social interactions. I try to make a positive difference. I try to be, I learn lessons from great leaders. I'm always inspired by the Nelson Mandelas, the Oliver Tambos. I was also anticipating a possible question on a quote. Go ahead and tell us. Yeah. Give me some of the greatest quotes for me come, apart from the Nelson Mandela quotes, some of the greatest quotes for me come from Martin Luther King. Okay. And I'm not gonna read them to you now, but I just think his quotes are just so inspirational. But I'm going to read one quote from Oliver Tambo. And that is, and I read it because it is about the contentious issue in South Africa, and that is about race. And he says, it is our responsibility to break down barriers of division and create a country where there will be neither black nor whites, just South Africans, free and united in diversity. That's O.R. Tambo. That's what he said. That's what he said when, he was facing tremendous hardship when he was in exile. And he gave this message to us, and we need to cling to these messages from these great leaders.
I agree, and maybe we don't spend enough time just unraveling all those quotes. They mean so much. Well, here's a quote about you from you, okay, which is, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, I'd like to be remembered for being better than I really am. We all want to be remembered for something spectacular. But I think one life lesson is, and the big lesson from somebody like Nelson Mandela, of course, is humility and the respect for people. So I would try to live my life, respecting people around me, and I suppose like everyone, I'd like to be remembered as having made. Well, no, I wouldn't say like everyone, to have led a decent life and to have made some kind of impact on on shaping a different South Africa and a better South Africa.
Okay, well, modest in terms of ending all that conversation. It's been fabulous talking to you. Your time's up, but you have a lot more to achieve in your life and to commit to South Africa. And I know that, so I'll leave you to doing all of that, starting with reading books and checking out Netflix tonight. Derek Hanekom, great chatting to you. Thanks for giving up your time here on the Friday Fireside Chat. Real privilege.
Thanks so much, Ashraf.
And do tweet out all those things about the books and those names, the name dropping that you mentioned about the young South Africans. I'd love to share that to a broader audience. Well, that's the show. It's Friday, as always, so it's time to chill now, but it means we'll be back on Monday. And once again, it's always about you and the National Pulse. It's 6 o'clock. Here's the news with Greg Hose.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Enjoy your weekend. In this news update, Police Minister speaks on tackling illegal mining and a rise in sexual offences in Gauteng. Good evening. The Police Minister, Senzo Mchunu, says Operation Valamgoti against illegal mining has had serious shortcomings as it didn't consider the socio-economic challenges in communities. He briefed stakeholders in Stilfontein in the northwest. He says the vast majority of illegal miners are from outside the country and there is continuous engagement with affected embassies.